6 o'clock. Good morning and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief. My name is Oliver Dickson, standing in for Tula Sizwe Simelane this morning here on the show. Coming up on the show, we're going to be bringing you that conversation about Donald Trump saying that a deal has been reached between Chinese and American trade negotiators, pending finalization from himself and Xi Jinping, the Chinese president. We'll get into the detail of what this could potentially mean for global trade, and importantly, what this means for U.S.-China relations. Has it been reset, and can they build from this moment onward? We're going to be speaking on that conversation this morning. We're going to be covering that with Professor David Munyai. He's with the Center of Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. A little bit later on in this hour, we're going to be speaking about a very interesting and alarming crime statistic, and that is the crime statistic of kidnapping. More than half the country's kidnapping takes place in Gauteng alone. Gauteng has seen a more than 15, almost 16% increase in kidnapping cases in the last quarter, year on year. And that is an alarming rise in the amount of kidnapping, more than the national average. We're going to be speaking to Andy Mashaile, as a security strategist and former Interpol ambassador, to talk about why Gauteng carries such a high number of the country's kidnappings, what particularly makes Gauteng so vulnerable and susceptible to kidnapping. And then we're going to be speaking to the EFF following yesterday's budget vote or budget framework vote that happened in Parliament. The fiscal framework has now been passed after 3 attempts, and finally, the Division of Revenue bills, as well as the Appropriations Act and the Money Matters Bill, can now be tabled and voted for, which will, of course, bring into effect the new fiscal year, so to speak. I guess we've been saved from the precipice of perhaps it's alarmist to say it, but we've been saved from a budget implosion, so to speak. Slightly alarmist. But that's coming up. And a little bit later on in the following hour, we're going to be speaking to Anne Bernstein, who's the Executive Director at the Center for Development and Enterprise. And this, of course, on Shamila Batoy's set retirement date, or at least her terms coming to an end in January 2026. A new NDPP has to be appointed. You would remember the last time an NDPP was appointed, President Ramaphosa used a slightly unconventional process. The president has the prerogative to appoint an NDPP and to do so unilaterally. He's empowered by the Constitution to do so. But the last time an NDPP was appointed, when Shamila Batoy was appointed, the process had gone through Parliament, and the President had asked Parliament to conduct interviews and provide him with a short list of candidates for him to appoint from, similar to how the Chief Justice or justices in the Constitutional Court or judges in the High Court are appointed. The President would get a list of recommendations from Parliament and make his decision from there onwards. All of that and more coming up on the show this morning. You can be a part of it all. I'd love for you to be a part of it. Give me a call. The number to dial is 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. And of course, you can tweet me. It is at Oliver_speaking on Twitter and Oliver Dickson on Facebook. It's 10 minutes after 6.
We're extending the sunshine on Mzansi's favorite adventure SUV with Ford Blue Sky offers. For just $849,999, a new Everest XLT could be yours. Glide through the burbs or power through nature's toughest with a 3.5-ton brake towing capacity. You'll even get 4x4 driver training through Ford Family Promise for free. Head to a Ford dealer and get your new Everest XLT for just $849,999. T&Cs apply.
We all have an enemy.
Not me.
Oh, please. Trust me, you do. Some are vocal about it. I mean, they don't shy away from it. Open hatred. Well, at least they're honest about it. Then you get our Satan. Oh, they will hate you in the shadows. Consult the Magoya of Baloi. Maybe an Nkabi for you here and there. Trash your name until it can't even be recycled. Tune into My Secret Enemy and get a front row seat to some of the most spine-chilling stories in the Hall of Betrayal. My Secret Enemy, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
And of course, it's time for the morning brief, the brief in morning brief. Melissa is here with us, and we're going to be starting out, Melissa, with that Mangaung Metro Police story that continue to face governance and service delivery challenges. Although officials say that efforts to address them are underway, what do we know about the latest there?
Morning, Oliver. So the municipality, which was placed under administration in 2020 due to dysfunction and failure to implement a financial recovery plan, reported to Parliament that political infighting and inexperience among appointed task teams worsened the situation. Mayor Gregory Nkatisi and the city manager, Selo Moore, said some stability has since returned, with the FRP now over 50% implemented. The municipality is said to be struggling with financial issues, including overspending. However, measures to address this, including cutting overtime, filling key positions, and improving internal maintenance capacity, are underway. An action plan is in place to tackle audit findings, reduce overspending, and enhance revenue management. While no internal corruption has been formally identified, arrests and investigations are ongoing, prompting new anti-fraud measures like whistleblower hotline and staff rotations in procurement processes.
Yeah. And then there's this spine-chilling story about Mduduzo Mnisi, who appeared in the Rhodoport Magistrates Court on charges of murdering and mutilating 14-year-old Likwana Fose, who was a grade 8 student at the time, whose body was found early, like last week or just the week before that. This, of course, is a very gruesome story. What do we know about his court appearance?
So Mduduzo Mnisi, who's 39, briefly appeared in the Rhodoport Magistrate Court yesterday on charges of murder and mutilating the 14-year-old little girl. The case was classified as a serious Schedule 6 offense. It was postponed to the 18th of June for formal bail hearing. Mnisi, who also has prior convictions for attempted murder and robbery, faces strong opposition from the state regarding bail. Force's family still believes that the crime was homophobic in nature. Police linked Mnisi to the crime following an investigation by the OCAL unit. Authorities emphasize the importance of community cooperation in solving such cases, and another suspect has since been arrested, but more on that. We'll watch it, we'll follow it closely and see how that goes on.
Yeah. And then some COVID news. I had read this morning that there's a prevalence of a new variant in America and most of the world. A South African friend of mine last week told me that she had COVID. Interestingly, the Omicron variant, which I think originated in South Africa, has not been detected, but people seem to be getting COVID again.
Yes, so this is quite a concerning story. As the Omicron super variant spreads in China, South African health authorities are closely monitoring the situation. As of the 10th of June of this year, the variant has not been detected in South Africa, so they've said, and current COVID-19 infections levels remain low. However, flu cases are rising with the cold season, and Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi assured that South Africa is well prepared with strong surveillance systems in place. Existing COVID-19 guidelines remain to be effective, with no new public health measures being required at this current stage. The public is urged, however, to maintain good, protocols and measures with regards to, treating their flus and ensuring that they do their testing whenever they feel, any suspect feelings, and we will have more on this with the NICD in the 8 o'clock hour.
Yeah. Melissa, thank you so much for that update. Really do appreciate it. That is Melissa with the morning brief in a brief this morning. Let's take a look at your latest weather.
This is Oliver Dickson on SAFM.
And we start out with your weather this morning. There are no adverse weather advisory conditions this morning, so we'll go straight into your morning indicators as well as conditions. In Johannesburg, you can expect morning fog patches, otherwise fine weather, a high of 16. The same in Vereeniging with a high of 15. And Mbombela will be fine with a high of 20, while Polokwane will be reaching a high of 18, also fine. Same in Mahikeng with a high of 17. Same in Freiburg with a low of -2 this morning and a high of 18. Bloemfontein will be fine with a low of 0 this morning and a high of 16, while Kimberley will be reaching a low of -1 this morning and a high of 17. Fine weather to be expected in Kimberley. Uppington will be reaching 1 degrees Celsius this morning with a high of 18. Slightly warmer in Cape Town with a high of 20 and a low of 11. Can expect fine weather in Cape Town. A light and variable wind in the morning, otherwise light southeasterly wind to be expected in Cape Town. George will be reaching a high of 19, fine weather expected there with a light and variable wind in the morning, otherwise light northerly to northwesterly in George. Gqeberha will be reaching a high of 20. Fine weather to be expected over there. A light northwesterly becoming light southeasterly by the afternoon expected there, while East London will be reaching a high of 20. A light northwesterly to northerly expected over there. Durban will be reaching a high of 19. A moderate westerly to southwesterly becoming northerly to northwesterly in the evening expected in Durban, while Richards Bay will be reaching a high of 21. A partly cloudy with light morning showers becoming fine. Moderate westerly to southwesterly expected there, becoming northerly to northwesterly in the evening, while Pietermaritzburg will be fine with a high of 19. And that's your weather.
What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made in the lives of others. These words by Nelson Mandela inspire us at Habitat for Humanity. With the help of various partners, including volunteers, corporates, communities, and government, we have built homes with more than 650 vulnerable families in South Africa, giving them hope and new beginnings. You too can make a difference. Partner today with habitat.org.za and join us in building a South Africa where everybody has an adequate place to live in. Together, we can change lives. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
A bowl of cereal, a glass of orange juice, some flavored yogurt for breakfast. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front-of-package warning labels. Now, sign the petition on healer.org. HEALA.org.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Well, America and China have been engaged in trade negotiations, and of course, this after America had imposed sanctions on the rest of the world, and particularly high sanctions on America. The American sanctions on China had escalated, and China had retaliated with their own set of tariffs. Rather than tariffs, not sanctions, their own set of tariffs. I mean, at some point, the tariffs on China was as high as 145%, and China had retaliated with American tariffs of as high as 125%. And this just kept going and going and going until they decided to begin negotiations and sit around the table. America said China was very arrogant and didn't want to negotiate, and China said America doesn't run the global economy and can't behave as though it does. China, of course, is the manufacturing capital of the world, and particularly the manufacturing capital of China. As a result of this, many believe that America will be entering a recession in the second half of this year at some point, and that it won't be good for the global economy if America enters a recession. We are now making sense of this with Dr. David Munyai. Dr. David Munyai, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Of course, we have to ask, Prof, what the impact of these negotiations are on the state of U.S.-China relations. Has this reset? Of course, the deal has not yet been signed. Xi Jinping, Donald Trump are yet to sign off on the new deal. But, Prof, is this a moment where American and Chinese relations have been reset?
No, not at all. I think it is, as a matter of fact, it's confusing that there's so much that is coming out of White House, and some of the issues raised concerning the tariffs and the negotiation with China is not backed by evidence, by facts. I think it appears that President Donald Trump is speaking to an audience on a daily basis, and in his second term, I think he's facing quite a hard time I think it's easy for him on countries such as South Africa and others. But when it comes to China, it appears that Chinese are much more prepared for this battle of tariffs, because this is just a framework. It's like just saying talks about talks. They've agreed to discuss certain set of issues, and what those issues are, we don't know. And therefore, there's so much talk, but it's not backed by anything.
We know that Donald Trump's tariffs were based on a miscalculation of what he thought a trade deficit meant, that those were tariffs that country imposed on him. It was a colossal miscalculation and misunderstanding of global trade. And so effectively it was based on a lie, so to speak. What concessions can be made and should be made between China and America for these talks to yield any positive result?
I think the tariffs is just one word. There are a number of other issues that are affecting the relation between the two countries. The broad geopolitical issues, namely the Taiwan question, in which the United States keep on selling arms and military base around China, and the war drums that his Minister of Defense was beating in Singapore recently. And beyond the geopolitical, around trade, technology issues, banning all chips, selling chips, not just by the United States, by the Western world, to China, try to stop China development of technology. And the numbers that you have alluded to. So there's a number of issues. So what we don't know is that the agreement or the reset touches upon what specific issues and to what extent will that have an impact in terms of resetting the relationship. As
a country, America is China's single biggest customer. And of course, China is the biggest importer into of goods into America. But there's an asymmetry in the relationship. And the asymmetry is that America owns the world's global financial institutions, while China owns the world's factories. America is greatly indebted to China, and that is what defines the backdrop of these negotiations. Americans have to ask themselves some hard questions about their relationships with China as a goods and service provider, and of course as a debtor to China. Are these asymmetries in the nature of their relationship going to be a problem going forward?
Well, but it is already a problem. I think you see where these negotiations are taking place. China is not agreeing going to White House. They're going to neutral places. That tells you that power relation. China is refusing to be commanded into White House or into the United States, and therefore that in itself tells you that they both have power that restrain the other, and therefore going forward, it's a 50-50. Or in other words, what some scholars call it assured mutual destruction. United States has power to destabilize China, and equally so China appears to be also carrying weight in a number of areas, aspects of economy and military, that also will go a long way in destabilizing the United States.
Yeah. China and America are both economies so large that if any one of them goes into a recession, it spirals a global recession. And if any one of them goes on an inflationary run, it spirals a global inflationary run. So these talks are not just talks important for China and US, they're also important for the rest of the world, given an interest and stake that we have. How should the rest of the world be watching these talks unfold?
I think the world need to continue discussing and answer core question. Should they follow what the U.S. is doing? I don't think that even U.S. allies would like to follow. I think what is worrying more is somehow eroding of multilateralism, because since the end of Second World War, there are certain institutions of global governance that were set, your United Nations and agencies, including the World Trade Organization, where there are certain rules of trading, and those rules are being undermined. And therefore, without those rules, it is just a question of a jungle out there. Anyone with power will just wield it on others without any way of correcting any mistake or dispute resolution on key issues. So without that, it's the chaos that we are entering into, a world that is multilateral multipolarity, and there's no one center that can command the rest of the world. So I think we slowly approaching that, unless certain countries continue with the world system as we know it.
Yeah. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Prof. Really do appreciate it. Professor David Munyai, Director of the Center for U.S.-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Zaid Khan is standing by with your latest in sports.
This is SAFM Sport with Zaid Khan.
Big day for Kagiso yesterday. Two wickets in 1 over. That hasn't happened much in Test cricket, eh?
No, I mean his pace was poetry, and guess what? He surpassed Alan Donald, the legendary Alan Donald. So well done to Kagiso Rabada.
This is as good as Test cricket gets, honestly.
Oh man, and I love that he's put out all the noise behind him.
Yeah,
you know that controversy that he was tainted both personally and professionally, but that's our Kagiso Rabada back in the spotlight. And this is the World Test Championship final against Australia. Rabada stealing the show on day one. He returned figures of 5 for 51 and earned a standing ovation from the Lord's crowd. And he says that he has put the noise past him.
Obviously it wasn't my best moment, as I've alluded to. Now life moves on. I think every game that I play for South Africa, I try to do my best. So I didn't try to give any more or any less effort than I usually do in all the games that I play for South Africa. So that's what I tried to do today.
And more cricket news. This time, the Proteas women suffered a disappointment in their ODI against the West Indies, falling short via the Duckworth-Lewis method after rain interrupted their chase. And soccer news, Keswick Stars reached for a goal, and that's for the promotion playoffs. It continues. They played out to a goalless draw with Orbit College FC at Olympia Park yesterday. Elsewhere, CONCACAF says it remains in close and ongoing communication with local authorities, host venues, and the participating national teams regarding the evolving situation in Los Angeles before the opening match of the Gold Cup in the city. The governing body for football in the North and Central America and the Caribbean is preparing for Mexico versus the Dominican Republic at the SoFi Stadium. Now, LA has seen a 5th day of protests and hundreds of arrests over U.S. President Donald Trump's immigration raids. And finally, we've got news from golf. 3 South African golfers are teeing off at the U.S. Open at Oakmont this week. And we've got the legends like Louis Oosthuizen, who's twice a runner-up, Ernie Els, 2-time U.S. Open champion, leading the charge. Also in the field is the rising star Christo Lamprecht with strong amateur pedigree, as well as a silver medalist at the opening championship. Now, South Africa's golf identity running deep with 3 U.S. Open winners, including Gary Player. And that's how we wrap it up.
Did you see those roughs at Oakmont?
Oh
no, go look at it. It is horrendous. Rory played a practice round on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And he said he shot 81 in the practice round, which is it's the worst.
Scores are going to be high.
Yeah, scores are going to be high. I wouldn't be surprised if the winner is like 2 under by the end of 4 rounds or like 5 over. It's possible, absolutely possible. But Chris is a long hitter, Lamprecht. I think he'll survive it. If you can hit long there, you can do well because then you can avoid a great deal of danger.
I was about to say the rough is going to eat the golfers alive, but Lamprecht will be eating that.
He's definitely going to do better than Louis Oosthuizen. Yeah, that's Zaid Khan with your latest in sports.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Basic Education Minister Siviwe Kgwakgobe says her department has put in place plans to support learners and repair damaged infrastructure in the Eastern Cape. This after severe floods affected the schooling of more than 6,000 learners. More than 70 schools were damaged. Another suspect has been arrested in connection with the murder of 14-year-old Likona Fose in Durban Deep Roodepoort in Johannesburg. The city's member of the Mayoral Committee for Public Safety, Mgini Chwaku, in a statement says he's a Pakistani national. And the government has expressed concern at the decision of the US to sanction 4 judges of the International Criminal Court. It says the action undermines the independence of the ICC and threatens the integrity of international legal institutions. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, it's another day of drama and delays on the R59 coming off the Vaal. No protesting, but it's a big truck crash. The R59 is closed at the R550 Heidelberg exit. That's by sort of Blockhouse area if you're leaving the Vaal, coming in from Verrelling, Meyerton. Lengthy queues on the 59, then an off-ramp onto that Heidelberg Road exit. Very heavy backlogs. Again, you might want to use the R59 as the alternative. Big button, move across from the R59 onto the R82 as your alternative route. Also very, very foggy conditions in that part of Gauteng as well. Over into KZN, truck crash recovery underway just north of Mpangeni through to Kwambonambi. Delays both ways. 2 trucks involved, 1 truck out of the way in terms of recovery, 1 still being recovered. So very heavy backlogging going on there. And Cape Town this morning, Stellenbosch Arterial again heavy coming through Kales River towards the R300 and Baden-Powell. That traffic just gets sort of busier by the week. There's queues this morning again from Mitchell's Plain heading to Muizenberg, queues down to Strandfontein Road Junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
It's 33 minutes after 6 o'clock, 27 minutes to the top of the hour, and Darlene is here with your business update this morning. And Darlene, good morning. We start out with U.S. inflation figures not looking particularly great in May.
Morning, Oliver, and that's right. Inflation ticking slightly higher in May at 2.4% from 2.3%. Economists noted that the impact of tariffs on consumer prices remains limited, mainly hitting items such as appliances, where the U.S. depends heavily on China for supply. Now, prices of major appliances jumped 4.3% over the month, while toys rose 2.2%, both contributing to the uptick in prices. However, these increases were offset by declines in other areas such as petrol, airfares, and clothing. Economists expect the full impact of the tariffs to take time to materialize as companies work through existing inventory. So while inflation remains close to the Fed's 2% target, policymakers will probably stay on pause when it comes to policy moves, but concerns linger that the tariffs could impact the economy and labor market, potentially prompting the Fed to take action. Now, we've seen multiple posts and statements by President Trump urging Fed Chair Jerome Powell to cut rates, even saying that the Fed should move faster on adjusting monetary policy. These statements come as Powell's term comes to an end next year in May, and last Friday, Trump said he would announce his replacement soon. Some of the latest reports suggest that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent may take up the spot, but a White House official has dismissed this report.
Yeah, and global clothing retailer Inditex has not posted very exciting results, it seems.
Yeah, Inditex now is the owner of Zara, and they've reported weaker than expected sales for the first quarter, as well as the early trading in summer, European summer that is. They've cited the impact of global trade tensions and tariffs. Inditex's first quarter revenue reached 8.27 billion euros, falling short of analyst estimates of 8.36 billion euros. Now, the company's summer sales growth also slowed, with currency-adjusted revenue growth of 6% from May the 1st to June the 9th, compared to 12% in the same period last year. Now, despite the downbeat showing, the group says its diversified business and flexible sourcing strategy strategies are expected to help it weather the challenges posed by global trade tensions. The company is focused on proximity sourcing, which involves producing goods closer to the target market, is also seen as a key factor in mitigating the impact of tariffs. Analysts, however, have raised concerns about the fast fashion industry, saying the industry is highly competitive with the likes of Shein stealing market share, and so they expect the recovery there to be slow.
Yeah. How did the markets close yesterday?
So starting in the US, stocks closed in the red, with investors shrugging off the renewed trade truce between China and the US. With that, we saw the Nasdaq leading the losses, down 0.5%. Sentiment different here at home, trade choppy. Now, while the all share edged lower, down 0.26%, it's still sitting at a record high level, boosted by stronger commodity prices, and the stronger gold and platinum price, as well as a softer dollar, also gave the rand a boost. It's sitting at 17.70 to the greenback this morning. Over in Asia, trade mixed as investors there also digest the deal that was struck between Washington and Beijing after 2 days of talks in London.
Yeah. Darling, we're going to have to be there and catch up with you in the second hour of the show. Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Advocate Sipho Mantula is going to be bringing us the Africa update. And of course, in this hour, we're going to be in conversation with Andy Mashahile, who is a security strategist, to talk about kidnapping numbers. Gauteng carries more than half of the country's kidnapping numbers. Very alarming. All of that and more coming up.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And Advocate Sipho Mantula is with us for the Africa update this morning. Advocate Mantula, we start out in Rwanda and the DRC, where U.S. gives conditions for the Rwanda-DRC-Congo peace deal. Tell us more about that.
Refreshing morning, Oliver, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Oliver, remember that the long-standing and delayed peace agreement between Rwanda and DRC, mediated by the United States as well as Qatar, has been going to and fro, looking at the current conditions that the U.S. is now putting in this facilitation, raising the complete withdrawal of the Rwandan troops from the eastern DRC before any formal deal can be signed. We know also that, Oliver, they are looking at issues of what they call joint security coordination mechanism that could include Rwanda as well as the foreign military observer personnel that will look at this crisis. You still have M23 that has to be brought into this debate as well, Oliver, as we have this peace deal. But it appears that Kinshasa is lamenting that Rwanda is dragging their feet on this draft, because they know that they've been pushed to say, for you to pen or to agree on this peace agreement, you have to withdraw. And that's where Tshisekedi is also concerned about Paul Kagame being not cooperating with this process. It has taken almost 2 months, Oliver. We have seen Qatar peace process, the Washington peace process, and we know Luanda, Kenya process has failed also. So this is worrying, as we see that the U.S. is putting conditions for this peace agreement between Rwanda and DRC.
Yeah. Let's have a look at what's going on in Burundi, where the African Union election observers say that the polls were largely peaceful.
They were peaceful, Oliver, but the opposition is crying foul, because here you have the ruling party getting 96% of the vote. That was announced by the Electoral Commission in Burundi, giving the ruling party an overwhelming majority of votes and seats in the parliament. Here now the AU Observer Mission, which sent 49 observers, giving them a green light, Oliver, to say that those elections were peaceful. But like I said to you, the opposition is raising issues of irregularities and also concern about the outcome of those polls. As I said to you, it's almost a 90% landslide by the ruling party in those legislative elections that were held in Burundi 2 weeks ago. They've even taken time to announce those results, but it appears the AU has given it the green light.
Yeah. And lecturers in the University of Zimbabwe are still striking, but their salaries have now been docked.
Oliver, this is worrying because this strike has taken time in Zimbabwe. It's almost 58 days of the industrial action about the lecturers in Zimbabwe, that the government has now docked their salaries. And here we are talking about near, Oliver, they are not earning much if you look at the currency. As they are using the US dollars, that junior lecturers, they're earning almost $230. And as well as those teachers lamenting on that, rejecting what they are saying, an increase of only, Oliver, that is a mere increase that will not make any sense of $2,250 that since 2018 they've been this protest been raised, but this year it almost took almost 2 months now, as they've been lamenting on their working conditions and also their salaries. And this is worrying if you look at the state of education that Zimbabwe has been holding, as well as their skills that they've been doing. But now you have a strike that has been going on, and you have to fill those posts if people are going to be fired, because this has been going on, and it's about the working conditions of the academic lecturers in the University of Zimbabwe.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have to take a look at our historical archives. It was on this day, on 12 June 1964, when the Rivonia trial, 8 of the accused were sentenced to life imprisonment in the Pretoria Supreme Court.
Oliver, this is the trial that changed South Africa. If you recall that 61 years ago, the 8 accused, they were led by Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, the late Dennis Goldberg, Walter Sisulu, Governor Mbeki, James Kanto, Andrew Mlangeni, Elias Mutwaledi, Raymond Mhlaba. All these elders have passed on, Oliver, but they made a mark with this Rivonia trial that was between 1963 and 1964. And only on this day, 61 years ago, there was that judgment that came out, and they were given long sentences rather than the death penalty. And if you recall, that Rivonia trial had a media coverage internationally, and also the ANC in exile was putting pressure on putting South Africa under the radar of sanctions. So this is a very important trial, if you have to consider it, Oliver, and that was in Pretoria. That court is one of what I'll call one of the heritage sites that should be preserved, and many young people need to understand that is one of the trials that changed the narrative of South Africa in 1964. That is almost 61 years ago in our annals of history. Asante sana, Oliver, as was in the conversation, SAFM observing the Soweto uprising month.
Yeah, Advocate Sipho Mandula, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Gauteng has half the country's kidnapping statistics. Why is that the case? We'll talk about that in a short while on the other side of this.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses. Pay yours, make a difference.
13 Southern African nations and North African guests, Morocco, will battle it out for the ultimate glory in the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Cup 2025 in Mangaung, Bloemfontein. Catch the beautiful game on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1 from 4 to 15 June. Stay tuned to SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
In the first quarter of this year, Gauteng police have arrested 88 people and rescued 77 victims in connection with 62 reported kidnapping cases. The majority of these abductions were tied to other crimes like hijacking, home invasion, and extortion. And of course, this accounts for half of the country's kidnapping cases. 77 victims were rescued. That's a high number for a single quarter. 62 reported kidnapping cases in a single quarter. That's also a really, really high number. But why is Gauteng so susceptible to this and a breeding ground for extortionists, kidnappers and abductors? And what is it that can be done about it? Andy Mashaile, who is a security analyst and a former Interpol ambassador, joins us for this. Andy, why Gauteng? Oh, Andy, are you with me?
champion.
Oh, there we go. Sorry,
viewer.
Andy, we lost you there for a second. Do you mind just starting afresh there?
Good morning to you, Oliver, and the heavyweight champion show listeners. The reason for this high crime rate in Gauteng tell both you and I that one, there is a complete disregard for law and order in our country, particularly in Gauteng as the epicenter of the economic heartland. Two, the law enforcement agencies with resource constraints prove a weakness good enough for the syndicates to can operate. Three, lack of intelligence-led operations. It's to crime syndicates or kidnapping syndicates thriving in the operation of their business. For Oliver, the business owners that get kidnapped in most instances do not do counterintelligence, do not have security apparatus beefing up their premises. 5, Oliver, it is also very, very important that the community police private partnership is brought to the fore here. Weakness in this tripartite structure leads to a situation where criminals operate as and when they wish with no regard for pain. The last point that I want to make, this kidnapping in Gauteng is high reward, less risk, especially what you and I call express kidnapping or ATM grabs, where you are grabbed for the ATM card and where you are grabbed to can transfer money into the accounts of the criminals, especially students around your Vanderbilt Park SE8 student accommodation next to the university there, Wits University, Johannesburg University, and all around where there are complexes. So these are some of the critical reasons why Gauteng the kidnapping is on the increase.
Yeah. When we talk about sort of the express kidnappings that you were making reference to, where it's a cash withdrawal and you're being held for that, those are often related to violent crime as well. But those are easy to combat. We know where the hotspots are, what the high areas are. It would be useful for police to patrol in those areas. Why are we not seeing that being curbed sufficiently?
My brother Oliver, it is actually difficult to prove express kidnapping in a court of law, as per the research that we have done and a number of these cases that we have attended at court sessions. And the police are not able once again to can patrol, Oliver, all of the ATM, all of the hotspots in Gauteng. I can map out a high number of these incidents in your Soshanguves of the world, in your Tshwane of the world, Krugersdorp, Randfontein, Western area, the Vaal. The police, because of resource constraints, you find a situation where one policing precinct, there's only 2 vans doing patrolling, and your area is vast in terms of these centers that you are identifying as hotspots that must be stabilized, normalized, and crime in those areas completely eliminated. So we have serious challenges, resource challenges, as well as lack of public-private partnerships. I am so happy to say Vision Tactical, one of the force multipliers. Vision Tactical is a private security company that always gives support to the police in Gauteng and have actually helped in the busting of many kidnapping syndicates, especially of business owners. So these models I would urge all private security companies in Gauteng to have a functional relationship with the police. In the same breath, Oliver, advise the police station commanders to avoid what I have seen, undermining private security companies when they are supposed to cooperate with them in order to keep us safe and sound.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it, Andy Mashaile. Really fascinating insights and useful insights in that. Andy Mashaile, who is a security analyst. Rob is standing by with your latest in traffic.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a reminder of another morning of disruption coming in off the Vaal, the R59. It's not protest related, but it's a truck crash and some heavy fog this morning. A couple of trucks colliding just north of the R550 Heidelberg Road off-ramp. You may find yourself being just rerouted off at the off-ramp and then back on, but net result, quite a heavy queue as you come up into that scene from the Randval area towards Joburg this morning. So if you're leaving the Vaal, if you don't fancy that, and it is heavy, use the R82 out via Walkerville. That'll bring you up to sort of Uncle Charlie's up through Southgate. And that route is running fine as an alternative this morning. Joburg Central, pretty busy on the N3 again. This is sort of the new normal as you queue up through Galulis on towards Modderfontein Road. Traffic light problems coming in off Lone Hill, Machali Suck on the main road down through Bryanston. A couple of big lights out, including Main and Sloane, which is the big one there, day 2 of that. And a crash driving into Pretoria on the N4. This is the Eminent Highway just before the N1. So that run in from sort of Watermeyer Street's all heavily backed up. Durban, the M7 into Pinetown, up over St John's Avenue Bridge into the central area. Very heavy, of course. That's the closure impact of Stapleton Road and motorists having to divert. Stapleton Road probably closed for about the next 3 weeks. Heavy backlogs north of Mpangeni. Truck crash recovery underway just around Nsileni through to Kwambonambi. So there's quite heavy backlogs around that recovery seen in both directions. Cape Town, breakdown at Hospital Bend and 2 inbounds being cleared, but it's left a backlog pushing back towards the airport. And again, quite busy coming out of the Kales River in Blackheath this morning. Stellenbosch Arterial towards that problematic Westbank Main junction is quite heavy again. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This Youth Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit, power and potential of young South Africans. Join us as we dive into conversations that matter, from innovation to education and skills for the changing world. Empowering youth for meaningful economic participation. Because at SAFM, we're not just talking, we're leading the conversations that move us. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Call us on 086 000 2032.
It is 5 minutes to the top of the hour where we take a listen at some of your WhatsApp voice note reactions and some of your reactions overall to the conversations we have thus far. Give us a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Have a listen at this.
Good morning, Oliver. I think you're confusing the appointment of the NDPP with the appointment of a public protector. That doesn't go through Parliament and didn't go through Parliament. The President appointed a panel that did the shortlisting and the interviews, and after that gave him a list of candidates that they were recommending, and he chose from that list.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Thanks.
The President appointed a panel to advise him on that. He didn't have to. He has a single prerogative to appoint the NDPP at his own volition. He doesn't have to appoint a panel. That's why I said he did it quite differently to what we're used to, in that he appointed a panel to make a recommendation to him about who to appoint. In all likelihood, is likely to follow a similar process this time around. And the frustration that we felt with the previous process, I don't know if you recall, is that it felt inordinately long. And there sort of was an urgency about having to get the NPA back on its feet to undo the politicization of the NPA. And we were hoping that he would appoint a candidate that would hit the ground running very quickly and get that sort of work done. And so it took a little bit longer than what ordinarily should have been the case to appoint an NDPP. But thank you so much for that WhatsApp voice note. Really do appreciate it. You can keep those coming in on 0614-104-107, 0614-104-107. And if you want to call me, it is 086 000 2032.
Good morning, Oliver. Well, for me, what's on my mind is the national dialogue done with eminent people group by CR. I would add Tabombeki, Naledi Pando, and any humanitarian. For me, on the agenda, it would be the SA judiciary, infrastructure decay, corruption, cheap labor, immigration, and extortion. Mr. S. from Bloemfontein.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. S. Really do appreciate it. Give me a call, 086 000 2032. Let's take a short break. We continue on the other side of this.
You are listening to Oliver Dickson on SAFM. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. You are listening to Oliver Dickson on SAFM.
Good morning, Oliver.
Give us a call, 086 000 2032. Let's go to the lines. Julian out in East London. Julian, good morning.
Good morning, Oliver.
Yes, go for it.
My
What's in your mind?
take here is this, this network on the ground. That network, before Mr. Ramaphosa did anything, he should have picked up all those rotten tomatoes. Whatever the good thing you're coming up with, they're going to shut it down and do the way they want. Sorry for that. Otherwise, there's nothing we can do. Thank you, Buddy.
What do you mean by networks? I'm sorry.
All the people of Jacob Zuma, they're still there. They're still in parliament. They're still in power. Then the NPA is just a toothless dog.
Yeah.
They're still in power. Who's gonna have Mantashe? He's still there. Who's gonna do what?
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Julian. Appreciate it. Ever listen at this.
That panel of appointing the public protector was just a smokescreen. We all know that he wanted Batoy. He begged her 3 times. He asked her to come. And then the 3rd time she decided to come. So that was just a smokescreen for us to, seems like it looks like when he appointed judges and so forth. This is Papla from Easterus.
Thank you so much for that. It is 7 o'clock. Let's take your latest news bulletin.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, national level to assist Eastern Cape schools affected by flooding, and Pakistani national arrested in connection with Likona Force's murder. Good morning. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwagube says her department has put in place plans to support learners and repair damaged infrastructure in the Eastern Cape. Severe floods have affected the schooling of more than 6,000 learners. More than 70 schools have been damaged. The death toll stands at 49 after floods swept a minibus in which learners were travelling into a river. Gwagube says resources are being mobilized at national level.
I also had briefed the president about the matters, particularly surrounding the scholars that were killed in that accident and those who are still missing. So I do believe that due to the scale of the tragedy, we will be able to at least mobilize national resources to come and descend upon this district.
Another suspect has been arrested in connection with the murder of 14-year-old Likona Fose in Durban Deep Roodepoort in Johannesburg. The city's member of the Mayoral Committee for Public Safety, Mgeni Chwaku, in a statement says he's a Pakistani national. He says the suspect, who is currently in custody, 39-year-old Mdudu Zimnisi, claims the shop owner instructed him to carry out the crime. Mnisi appeared briefly in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court yesterday. He's facing a charge of premeditated murder. Chwaku says police are investigating.
Another suspect, who is a Pakistani spaza shop owner in Durban Deep, has been arrested in connection with the Likona Forces murder. This follows the court appearance of the main suspect in the Roodepoort Magistrate Court. The investigation is ongoing and we're working to gather more evidence.
A suspect arrested in Cape Town for being in possession of 18 million rands worth of drugs will appear in a local court soon. Police arrested the suspect at a storage facility in Rowland Street and confiscated the drugs yesterday. Police spokesperson FC Van Wyk says officers acted on a tip-off.
They conducted a search of the unit upon which they discovered 15 bricks of cocaine with an estimated street value of 18 million rand, as well as one AK-47 rifle, an Uzi, 5 9mm pistols, and an assortment of ammunition. The 40-year-old male will appear in the Cape Town Magistrates Court once charged for the unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition and dealing in drugs.
The government has expressed concern at a decision by the US to sanction 4 judges of the International Criminal Court. It says the action undermines the independence of the ICC and threatens the integrity of international legal institutions. International Relations Minister spokesperson Crispin Piri.
South Africa, as a founding member of the International Criminal Court, views these sanctions and previous threats as an attempt to intimidate and obstruct the court's objective efforts to hold perpetrators of the most serious crimes accountable.
And finally, the US has started to evacuate some staff and their families from its embassy in Iraq, as well as military bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. This is due to security concerns. American officials have reportedly been told that Israel is ready to launch an operation against Iran. The BBC's Tom Bateman has more.
It is now 2 weeks, in fact, since President Trump said he was giving Tehran 2 months to comply with what he wanted in those talks designed to try to stop the Iranians developing a nuclear weapon. Now, these partial evacuations are significant, but they may also be designed to put some pressure on the Iranians in those talks. There has been some tense conversations between President Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has always favoured a military rather than a diplomatic path when it comes to the US and Iran.
Recapping the top story, Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwagube says her department has put in place plans to support learners and repair damaged infrastructure in the Eastern Cape. Severe floods have affected the schooling of more than 6,000 learners. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
With all the recent headlines, it's time for some good news. A 25-year-old man, Tyler, is smiling all the way out to the bank. He switched to Outsurance and now saves a whopping 718 Rand a month on the insurance for his 2021 Ford Figo 1.5. Get a quote today and see how much OutSurance could save you and your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. It is cricket action with Kagiso Rabada roaring back 5-4 at Lords, putting the Proteas on the front foot. And we also bring you the USGA's pushing ahead with a golf ball rollback set to take effect in 2028. We'll have the details at around 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Coming off the Vaal, the R59 stays heavy on the run towards Joburg. It's a truck crash which is being cleared up just by the R550 Heidelberg off-ramp, Heidelberg Road off-ramp. Motorists being diverted off the highway at the ramp and then back on at the on-ramp. And there's a really big delay arriving into that from Randval, leaving Mayerton, leaving Thornton. You might want to take the R82 up to Joburg as your alternative route. Lights are still out on the main road coming out of Lone Hill down to Bryanston, so that's heavy. And a crash on Pretoria's N4. This is the Emma Highway. Pretoria Hatfield bound, if you like, just by the N1. It's quite a big backlog beyond Vartameyer Street. Truck crash recovery, northern part of KZN on the N2 at Nsaleni. If you're moving north of Mpangeni, some very heavy backlogging around that particular scene. M7 going into Pinedown, really heavy this morning as motorists deal with the continuing closure of Stapleton Road for some road upgrade works there. M7 is the alternative. Cape Town N2 inbound, pretty heavy this morning from the airport all the way through to Hospital Bend and Marine Drive, just starting to backlog coming from Dolphin Beach all the way through to Racecourse Road in the Milnerton area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It is 8 minutes after 7 o'clock. The Center for Development and Enterprise has issued a call to President Ramaphosa to reform the appointment process for the next head of the NPA. Of course, you would recall that the president, the last time, had put together a panel to have give him recommendations for the appointment of the NDPP. The president doesn't have to do that. In fact, it is his prerogative who to appoint as the NDPP. And Bernstein will be speaking to me about that this morning. And then a little bit later on, we're going to be talking about the disaster unfolding in the Eastern Cape. Relentless storms, torrential rains, and heavy snowfall over the last couple of days have brought infrastructure to devastation. 49 people have lost their lives due to inclement weather in the Eastern Cape, 11 of those being children. You would recall there was an incident of a scholar transport vehicle where 11 children present in the car and the vehicle had been swept away by the floods. The vehicle had been found, but the children still have not been found. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. Zolile Matthews, who is the spokesperson for the MEC, Zolile Williams, who's the Cocta MEC in the Eastern Cape, will be speaking to us about that. All of that and more coming up in this hour. You can be a part of it. I'd love to hear your reactions. 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. You can send me your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107, and tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dickson on Facebook. It's 10 minutes after 7.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses. Pay yours, make a difference.
Specsavers Audiology, South Africa's largest audiology group, brings you the all-new Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aids. Experience cutting-edge features at a price you can afford. For a limited time only, buy one Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one and get 50% off the second. Visit specsavers.co.za to find your nearest store and ask for Clarity Pro today. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals. After a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Tusopala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
11 minutes after 7 o'clock, you are listening to the morning brief. My name is Oliver Dickson. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Shamila Batoy, the advocate Shamila Batoy, the national director of the NPA's term is coming to an end next year in January, and a new candidate will have to be appointed and interviewed. Well, interviewed at least and shortlisted well before then for the president to make the appointment. Assuming that's the process the president would want to follow, given that's the process he followed the last time around. But Anne Bernstein of the Center for Development and Enterprise is calling for a reform of the appointment process. Anne, good morning. What exactly would you like to see the appointment process to look like?
Well, good morning. We would like to build on what happened in 2018, which was an improvement. And we're saying that after the president has nominated one or more candidates that he would like considered for this appointment, we should have a panel that interviews these possible appointments. This should be a panel that represents a judge, someone with management experience, say a business leader, a civil society person, and a number of other people. So people of high standing in our society, so that we're all assured this is a serious process. And they should interview the candidates and deliberate on the challenges facing the NPA and the kind of person who can lead the NPA in the future. So we're saying that we should know who the members of this panel are. They should be people of high standing to inspire confidence. Their reports should be made public at the right time, and the reasons for their selection after deliberation and interviews. We are saying that the interviews should not be public, that the experience of the Judicial Service Commission has shown that often these kinds of interviews become media spectacles. Good people don't even apply because they don't want to go through this.
Yeah.
And they're sort of grandstanding by people asking questions and whatever. So we're saying that part of the process, and only that part, should be private rather than in the public eye.
It's interesting that you mentioned that good people aren't applying for this, and because do you think it has to do with the interview process, or rather, more holistically, that this is just generally an unenviable job? The NPA is a large institution. The buck stops with you, and it's an institution marred by failure, controversy, shortcomings. No matter how well the NPA does, we never really clap for them when they do well, but we criticize them when they don't do well. And I'm not sure anyone would like to have a job where they're judged against their worst and not judged against their ordinary and average. Is the interview process the problem here rather than the institution itself?
Look, I think there are lots of challenges. I was really referring to the experience of the Judicial Service Commission, where people are not even putting themselves up. Good people are not standing, and we're not getting sufficient candidates because, although being a constitutional court judge is a highly desirable, challenging job, people don't want to go through this often humiliating public interview process. Now, when you come to the NPA, we're making two recommendations. We're hoping that good people will put themselves forward, and we hope the President will look perhaps beyond only asking sort of constituency representatives in the legal field to make nominations to him, that we need to look wider than that, but that's the President's prerogative. But we're also suggesting that at the same time, and as soon as possible, we stop making allegations about the NPA and what is going wrong and sort of attributing that to individuals. We should have a short, sharp inquiry into the NPA by a retired judge that comes up with considered views, can interview people, subpoena people, and then says, in his view or her view, this is what's going wrong in the NPA, and these are the actions that should be taken. In the same way as we did that for SARS with the so-called Nugent Commission, this becomes a roadmap for the next incumbent in the position of head of the NPA, which, as you say, is a challenging job. They would have this Commission of Inquiries report as for them to think about as a kind of roadmap, so they don't come in cold. And we think that would assist this process as well, because we are struggling, and it's easy to make allegations from outside, but let's get a retired judge to assess this.
Yeah. And then just lastly, Shamila Batoye's performance and leadership has come under great scrutiny and criticism over the last couple of months. In fact, the president even indicated he would like to have a meeting with the head of the NPA to discuss that and various other things related to the NPA. Many are calling for her to step down. Many are calling for her to step aside. And, of course, for someone else to lead the institution in the interim till January when a new appointment is set to take place. What are your views on that, Anne?
We are certainly not supporting any calls for her to step aside. This is a challenging job, and the NPA was an institution that was captured during the Zuma era. And we have been looking at the area where the NPA's performance in terms of dealing with very large state capture and corruption cases. And that's why we're calling for a commission of inquiry. You know, it's easy to stand on the outside and throw stones. Let's get a retired judge to look into this. There's about 6 months to go till she retires. And we think this would be the best process both to assess what's happened, where we are now, but as importantly, what the new incumbent should do. So we're saying that let's look at the appointment process and get going with that as soon as possible and deepen that process with our suggestion of a panel to interview potential candidates and simultaneously have this fair inquiry by a senior retired judge that could be short and sharp. It doesn't have to go on forever. It must be within this sort of 6-month period, and to look fairly at what's going on and what is holding back the NPA from successfully prosecuting big corruption cases, which Advocate Batoye herself has said they're still recovering from the state capture era and its destructive effects. And she has, for example, asked the president in August 2023 to suspend one of her senior regional directors, but she's yet to hear back from the president almost 2 years later. So we have to look holistically at what is going on with the NPA and big corruption cases.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Anne. Really do appreciate it. Anne Bernstein with the Center for Development and Enterprise. I'm taking your reactions to that. Give me a call, 086 000 2032. On the other side of this, we speak to political commentator Sandile Swana.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, after a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Thuso Phala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. On Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the Stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
We plan for vacations, retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guardrisk Life, a licensed life insurer FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
The land is their legacy, but in season 3 of Yellowstone, that legacy is under fire. Kevin Costner returns as John Dutton, fighting to protect his ranch, his family, and everything that can't be bought. More enemies, deeper betrayal, and the battle for the West, it's only just begun. Yellowstone Season 3. This land was won with blood, and it'll take more to keep it. Saturdays at 9:30. Starts 24 May. Only on S3. Open up.
You are listening to the Morning Brief.
It is 22 minutes after 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Really appreciate it. President Ramaphosa had announced the long-awaited, or at least the long-promised national dialogue. He had appointed or put together a panel of eminent persons. He calls it the Eminent Persons Group. Really interesting names on here. And I want to read some of the names to you before I speak to political and governance analyst Sandile Swana about this. Dr. Brigalia Bam, who was responsible for early election infrastructure in South Africa. Of course, she's the former chairperson of the IEC. Mr. Robbie Brosen, Judge Edwin Cameron, Mr. Mana Dipiko, Dr. Desiree Ellis, Ms. Ella Gandhi, Professor Nomboni Sokasa, or a young Professor Nomboni Sokasa, Mr. Bobby Gottsal, Dr. John Kani, Sia Kolisi, Mia Leroux, His Grace Bishop Barnabas Likhanyane, His Grace Bishop Engenas Likhanyane, Reverend Thabo Makhoba of the Anglican Church, Professor Tinyoko Maluleke of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Barbara Masekela, poet and educator, Lindiwe Mazibuko, former member of parliament and the founder and CEO of Future Elect Democracy Building Institution, Rolf Meyer, Glina Mhlope, Dr. Glina Mhlope, Nompendulo Mkachwa, Khotatsa Monjane, who's a Grand Slam tennis champion, Prof. Harry Nengwekulu, who's a former activist and educator, Bekin Jalinjali, unionist, Hosifilia Nwamitwa, who's a traditional leader, Khositabo Siatlolo, who's the chairperson of the House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Dr. Gloria Sirobe, Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, Professor Derek Swartz, Lirato Trok, Zbusiso Vilani, and Siabulela Kluza, who's an award-winning rocket scientist. These are the people who's on the list of eminent leaders who are supposed to guide the country through difficult conversations. Are the right sort of interlocutors here to guide and lead the country through difficult conversations? Sandile Swana, good morning.
Good morning to you, Oliver, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. Thank you.
Yeah, are these the right people?
From my perspective, no, and I think that there has been a number of other commentators on social media and elsewhere who said that this is not the right list of people who should be there, and there's a lot of more grassroots representatives that should have been there, and also it appears that the elites are the ones who are constituting this whole thing and controlling it.
Yeah. Perhaps let's talk about the forum itself. It's a talk shop. That's truly what it is. We hope that we're able to have difficult conversation and overcome them in ways that we haven't before. For instance, the elephant in the room in South Africa is our state of race relations. We haven't truly, as a country, collectively had the difficult conversation of racism, and racial segregation in the country. And it's a conversation we need to have, even if the outcomes are not tangible, but at least we're having the conversation, and that in and of itself is a good thing. But generally, and outside of that, what potentially could and should this forum of people and this forum of dialogue achieve?
To my mind, on your issue here, growing up here in South Africa, I didn't see, till today, it's 6 decades down the road, I've never seen race relations or apartheid as an emotional problem. I've always looked at it as a concrete problem. For instance, if we drove with my parents from Soweto to Southdale Shopping Center in the suburbs, and I see white school kids playing rugby on the field, and there's no prospect of me ever doing that in Soweto. Those sort of things. So for me, racism has always been concrete and material. Therefore, if you call a national dialogue, I think the issue of the standard of living and quality of life needs to be front and center. If you feel bad about me because I'm black and I have my standard of living equal or better than yours, we've got a starting point. If you are 20 times economically better than me, then there's no starting point. That is outright war. That is outright conflict.
Yeah.
Okay. So to me, when you say there are eminent persons who are going to discuss the national issue, it must be the equalization of sewage services, equalization of clean water, equalization of electricity, equalization of housing and our living environments, equalization of work and any possibilities, equalization of average incomes, and so on and so forth. So to me, the people who then constitute the panel, there should be a number of engineers in the different segments where the actual quality of life is affected, who are there, economists and strategists in the economic arena to resolve these issues that have not been resolved since 1994 of an economic nature. The emotional problems are in the Constitution. Some people don't realize that there are provisions in the Constitution that provide to a large degree for the possibility of Afrikaner separate republics, such as Plainfontein and Oranje. So the Afrikaners, as they went into the new constitution, still wanted a resuscitation of Volksstaat and Afrikaner Republic.
Yeah. Sandy Leswana, thank you so much for your time and your insights this morning. I really do appreciate it. Sandy Leswana, a political analyst, talking to us there about the President's National Dialogue and Eminent Persons Group. Zai is here with your latest in sports.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, you know what I like about Kagiso's performance yesterday? Not only did he get a lot of wickets, 5, in a single innings is incredible, but he was also really economical. Sometimes a bowler can get you a lot of wickets, but they're very uneconomical, expensive, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't particularly expensive. 51 runs off of his overs, which wow. That I think is very economical.
KG's arm was just doing the talking yesterday, so
Yeah.
I got to give it to him. What can I say? Yes, our premier fast bowler, Kagiso Rabada, says all he had to do was block out the noise and do what he knows best. At the World Test Championship final against Australia, Rabada stealing the show on day one. He returned figures of 5 for 51, his second at the home of cricket, earning him a place on the honours board for the second time. This achievement also moved him past Alan Donald, placing him 4th on South Africa's all-time Test wicket takers list, behind legends such as Dale Steyn, Sean Pollock and Makhaya Ntini.
Of bowlers is special. As a player, growing up and representing South Africa, I've been inspired by those who've come before and seen, what they've done on the big stage. And as a kid, I was inspired, to want to do the same thing. So to be listed in that list of names is something special. And long may it continue.
Rugby now. The loose forward Marcel Coetzee says the Bulls take valuable lessons from 2 previous URC final defeats into Saturday's Dublin decider. The Bulls lost 18-13 to the Stormers at Cape Town Stadium in the inaugural 2021-22 season and 21-16 to Glasgow at a sold-out Loftus season. And golf, the world number one Scotty Scheffler says the formidable Oakmont course could provide the hardest challenge of his career at the 125th US Open this week. Lightning fast slope greens combined with deep, dense rough and bunkers designed to leave the balls along the edges had many players calling it the toughest layout they have faced. John Rahm also describing it as an extreme challenge.
Extreme challenge, but even when you just stand on that putting green, seeing the whole property, it's, you're somewhere special. It's quite iconic. It's going to be a challenge. A lot of unfortunate things are going to happen. It's hard fairways to hit, bad lies, difficult bunkers, difficult greens. So it's going to be a nice test, a difficult test. And I think one of those truest representations of what US Open is all about.
I don't have my money on Scotty. my money's on Rory. Either him or Bryson. Scotty doesn't play well at this course.
Well, we're just going to have to see what the swing is going to be when we start this week at Oakmont. Brace yourself. Well, more sport, top of the hour. I'm Zaikad.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the EFF in the Eastern Cape has called for the provincial government to be placed under administration. The call follows floods in which 49 people were killed and hundreds displaced. The EFF is blaming the provincial government for the deaths, saying they could have been avoided if there'd been proper infrastructure. Meanwhile, the Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Gwagobe, says her department has put in place plans to support learners and repair damaged infrastructure in the Eastern Cape. The floods have affected the schooling of more than 6,000 learners. And government has expressed concern at a decision by the US to sanction 4 judges of the International Criminal Court. It says the action undermines the independence of the ICC and threatens the integrity of international legal institutions. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just zooming into that R59 hotspot this morning. No protesting, but it was an earlier truck crash just down by the Heidelberg Road off-ramp. So coming in from the Vaal, it was another really tough morning with that road being closed and traffic having to route via the ramps. It looks like it's been open, but there's possibly now a breakdown just north of that. So if you're leaving the Vereeniging-Meyerton area on your way to Joburg, there is a significant backlog of traffic on the R59 around that sort of block house services area. The other big story we're watching is coming into Pretoria on the N4. There's been a crash just by the N1 highway. Traffic parking all the way back through towards Simon Vermuten and looking pretty heavily backed up. A lot of congestion on Watermeyer Street, either trying to get in or out of the N1 on the highway at that queue. R21, the roadworks update this morning. They're pretty close to the Olifantsfontein Road exit, so from Bupsfontein Road up through Tembisa on your way to Clayville. That's all heavily backed on your way to Pretoria again this morning. Still dealing with a truck crash recovery in Seleni area north of Mpangeni. The N2 both ways, some real pressure out that way. Durban, a truck is stuck on the N3 inbound ramp to the N2 south at Spaghetti Junction. If you're coming in from Pinetown, you can't turn down towards the south coast. That's putting all sorts of pressure around 4 levels. Some big traffic in from Pavilion and the N2 under pressure both ways into Spaghetti Junction. M7 up into St John's Avenue Bridge territory from Queensborough, North of Dean North Park area. Again, very heavy motorists continue to have to route away from that Stapleton Road closure. Stapleton Road closed for the next few weeks for urgent repair works. Cape Town today, the Marine Drive right out of Bloberg Tableview, pretty heavy all the way past Sunset Beach down towards Racecourse Road. N7 backed up from Goodwood up to Bosmansdam Road. And if you're coming out of Kales River, it's a disaster again. The traffic lights Stellenbosch Arterial at Westbank that work one day and they go down the next. Well, it's the next day, so they're off again. So a lot of pressure in that sort of Blackheath bottom end of Kales River. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Gauteng is back with the business update. And Gauteng, perhaps one of the most difficult businesses to run in the country right now, and perhaps the worst business to have on your portfolio is MultiChoice. They continue to bleed subscribers.
That's right, Oliver, and this led to key metrics being in the red. Revenue declined 9% as it lost 2.8 million subscribers. I think its subscriber base now sits under 20 million from highs of around 25 million, probably 5-6 years ago. Now, the group has pointed to the rise in streaming services, economic pressures, piracy, and investments into Showmax, which is not profitable as yet, and that really hurting its bottom line. Additionally, MultiChoice absorbed a 10.2 billion rand hit to its revenue due to local currency depreciation against the dollar. Now, despite these challenges, the company managed to report a smaller loss of 800 million rand from 1.3 billion rand in the previous year. And this comes as it implemented some cost-cutting measures, resulting in 3.7 billion rands in savings. And this was ahead of its 2.5 billion rand target. Despite the tough trading environment, company CEO Calvo Mawela says MultiChoice remains committed to its growth strategy and navigating the challenges posed by the evolving media landscape. When you talk to a lot of analysts, there seems to be a pause on buying MultiChoice, especially as we're now, awaiting the Canal Plus merger to take place.
Yeah, I thought after the Competition Commission approval for the merger to go ahead that the share price would have ticked significantly upwards.
I think it's because we've kind of known this was going to happen because Canal Plus has been acquiring shares over time. So they hold the majority stake, or rather through the takeover, the highest stake under the takeover regulations. And now that it's gone through, they're going to acquire everything. But I think it was a thing of they're not doing great in terms of financials, and we've kind of known that this is probably going to happen.
Yeah. Interestingly, do you own a MultiChoice subscription, darling?
I mean, I own it through my parents. I have it for my
MultiChoice is expensive. DSTV is expensive. I don't blame them. I don't blame people who have unsubscribed. It's sad though that, do you know what Waka TV is? It's sad that there's that, right, which is chowing into it.
And pointed to those, those piracy concerns as some of the reasons to why they are losing subscribers.
Yeah, it certainly is. I would not imagine otherwise. Well, the JSE breaks past another record high.
That's right, Oliver. So we've seen the JSE We've seen the factors contributing positively to morale, and in the same breath, we've seen the JSE soaring to record highs in yesterday's session. Now, the all share crossed the 97,000 point mark, and that was being boosted by commodities. The precious metals and mining index surged to 63.6% over the past 12 months, and this was driven by record gold prices and strong demand for safe haven assets. Higher platinum prices have also positively impacted PGM miners. We also saw banking stocks reaching all-time highs, with Standard Bank and First Rand leading the charge. We also saw optimism around expectations of further rate cuts, also boosting the financials and the banking sector at large. Now, this optimism can be traced back to last year, when sentiment on SA Inc. stocks improved following the national election. While there's been some hiccups, the local bourse has remained resilient, and analysts expect the strong showing to continue, with some even saying that the all share could break past the 100,000 point mark before the end of the year.
Yeah, let's take a look at the market indicators.
So starting in Asia, markets trading mixed, with developments in the Middle East denting sentiment and capping gains from the renewed trade truce between China and the US. The Hong Kong Hang Seng is down 0.68%, while the Shanghai Composite trades in the green, muted gains though up 0.09%. Meanwhile, in the US, futures are in the red, with traders there sifting through the latest inflation print. Consumer prices taking up slightly at 2.3% in May. Coming back home, a mix showing from the JSE, with the all share shading over 0.25%. But as I mentioned, the all share broke through an all-time high, so still remaining resilient. Meanwhile, in currency markets, a weaker dollar and Parliament passing the budget's fiscal framework and revenue proposals after many delays has given the local unit a boost. It's sitting at 17.70 to the greenback this hour.
Yep. And darling, we'll catch up again in the next hour just before the markets open. I'm taking your reactions and calls 086 000 2032 086 000 2032. It's 20 minutes before 8.
What if you open up more? Open up to learning and experiencing more of Mzansi and abroad? What if you open up culture and explore the extraordinary from music to drama and the latest fashion? What if you open up your wild side, discover a world of skyscraping cities and brown sugar beaches? What if you open up your kitchen and immerse yourself in cuisines from all corners of the world? What if you open up your voice with all eyes on you without being seen? What if you open up your morning to lekker conversations and world-class entertainment? What if you open up more?
The reigning champions Banyana Banyana and 11 African national teams are ready to tackle each other for WAFCON 2024 to determine who are the real queens of the continent. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Experience the Women Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 1 and SABC 2. Also available on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
It's just about 20 minutes to the top of the hour, taking some of your calls and reactions on 086 000 2032. Let's go to Nadia in Claremont. Nadia, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Oliver, and good morning to your listeners. Oliver, I'd like to comment on what's currently happening where we see global masses joining up the Samud convoy and other convoys heading towards Gaza. I would just like to say this is an indictment against the United Nations, against all of these bodies that were designed and built to protect civilians and humanity and to uphold human rights laws. And Oliver, I feel that people are being forced to do this because the hands of governments have been tied by the United States and Israel. And it begs the question, what is the benefit of the United Nations then if their hands are tied as well? So it's for humanity and for global masses, I think the time has come where the UN should perhaps be restructured and that the United States, which is currently supporting a genocide, should not have a veto because that at the beginning, at the essence of our so-called democratic world is not democratic.
Yeah.
When you have 15 countries or 14 saying ceasefire, stop shooting civilians in the head, babies in the chest, and continuing with your war crimes, and the United States has vetoed, so it makes nonsense out of these so-called, high-standing values that we uphold. So I want to support the convoys to Gaza and give them our support and love, and hopefully this weapon of starvation that's being used by the United States and Israel will come to an end, and humanity will stand up for the rights of the people in Gaza. That is just my thought for this morning. I think it's an absolute indictment against everybody, and it's about time. And I'm also praying for the people who have been arrested and incarcerated by Israel. One of the 12 members, I believe, that was on that flotilla is now being held in a dark cell with no air. And apparently it's going to be kept there for 7 days. Now, is the actions of a democratic or moral state, then I don't know.
Yeah, Nadia, thank you so much for your call. I really, really do appreciate that. Nadia calling us there from Claremont. Kirk in Cape Town, good morning. Go for it.
Good morning, Oliver. The tenure of Shamila Batoyi appears to have been blighted by failures of the high-profile cases, asbestos and sign-off and all kinds of other things. While the leadership of that important institution is very important, I do understand that the support that she gets and the resources that they get and the resources that they have at the present moment are insufficient to properly prosecute cases, never mind high-profile ones. So I do think that it's important that we don't forget that they need the resources to do the job.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that thought, Kirk. Appreciate it. Maxwell in Pretoria, good morning.
Good morning, my favorite Oliver. Oliver, I want to commend the executive and the Department of Health in Mpumalanga, to be exact. They've bought a train that supply medicine to the people of the rural of Bushbuck Ridge. And they are concerned, and the number is growing. Other people, they were there since both Sunday, sleeping there to get the medication. And what I've heard, that train will be departing on Friday this week. So the majority of the people, they are appealing to the Department of Health in Mpumalanga so that they can extend that train to stay longer in that part of the province. And it's a huge success, Oliver, and I just want to commend everyone who made it success for that train to be there. A lot of old people, youth, kids, they are queuing as I'm talking to you to get medicine from that train. Big up to the people of Mpumalanga and their government. My last point, Oliver, will be never been satisfied with the people that have been chosen by the president. I can put the name of Prince Mashele to be involved in dialogue, or Tim Sukazi, the way you have done for the people of Mpumalanga. You will come with your own list as well, but we need to give credit where it's due, that at least we have a government that are trying, even if we're not satisfied, a dialogue amongst ourselves. And also people, I heard them that the wasteful expenditure that they went to USA, Bokumbuzo, how much it is. But we must be grateful, because our visit when we went to America, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they're no longer friends now. Yeah. And the perception that was built by that life that perpetuated there, it's no more existing. So whatever we spend by going there, it's worth a cent, Oliver. And thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you so much for that call, Maxwell. Really, really do appreciate it. I'll continue to take some of your reactions. 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. And of course, I'll be able to take them a little bit later on. We're going to be talking in a very short while about what's going on in the Eastern Cape. The inclement weather conditions has been quite disastrous. 11 children have been swept away in a motor vehicle taxi on their way to school or on their way from school. The details are unclear. The taxi has been found, but the children not. The Minister of Basic Education is on the ground in the Eastern Cape with the MEC of Cocta, Zolile Williams, who I'm going to be talking to in a very short while. About the latest there and the support that's been given to families. 49 people having died as a result of inclement weather. When I did the weather this morning, it seemed to be a lot more positive in the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape will be, for the most part, will be experiencing fine weather today. And so it seems that the worst of the bad weather has subsided and the system has moved past us. We're going to be talking about that. I'd like to hear your reactions to that as well on 086 000 2032. But right now, Rob has your latest in traffic.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply. 13 Southern African nations and North African guests, Morocco, will battle it out for the ultimate glory in the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Cup 2025 in Mangaung, Bloemfontein. Catch the beautiful game on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1 from 4 to 15 June. Stay tuned to SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Let's talk women's soccer now. Banyana will hopefully be able to defend their title at WAFCON, which takes place in Morocco from the 5th to the 26th of July. We're joined on the line now by Idiski Times football journalist Letabo Khanyago. Little mini group in the Tri-Nations tournament, so very, very good build-up, I would suggest, for WAFCON. What do you think Coach Des would have learned from this tournament?
So I think for Coach Des, in these matches, we saw some, new faces, not new faces, some faces that we haven't seen in a long time return, come back to the national team. You want to see if everyone is gelling, the girls that have just finished their seasons abroad as well, coming back home. And also, now that our league is back and it's playing fluidity and everything, you just want to test that. And also, I think the other thing I observed was, some of the combinations she had been trying, playing some players in different positions. You could see in the first match against Botswana where Gedi Salgado was playing as well.
Top Sport on SAFM. SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The R59 coming in from the Vaal is being cleared up. That big crash near the Heidelberg Road junction is out of the way, and all that backlog has been released. Pretoria is quite busy this morning. Crash on the N4 inbound at the N1. So if you're going to Pretoria, driving into Hatfield, big queues back through Watermeyer Street, and a lot of localised congestion. Motorists clogging up Linwood Road as an alternative, and really struggling to get in and out of that N4 at Watermeyer Street, causing problems there. Also, Pretoria East, the problematic traffic lights at Gauteng and Solomon Mashlangu are still out. They cause really big delays this time of morning with peak volumes in that area. Durban still dealing with a broken down truck which is blocking the N3 inbound ramp to the N2 south to turn down towards the south coast. So the N3 inbound with motorists having to sort of make a last minute decision as they arrive there and push through to Sherwood. So you join it all up. It's a queue from Pavilion Mall through Spaghetti Junction through the closure and down to Sherwood where some are trying to turn around and come back. Staying in Durban, M7 into Pinetown stays heavy. Crash on Bel Air Road up at Harry Gwala if you're coming up past Chief Albert Lutuli Hospital. That's quite slow. And a big mess to be cleaned up at Nseleni on the N2. If you're driving north of Empangeni, there's some very heavy backlogging both directions at that particular scene. 2 trucks, but a really big mess of an accident to be sorted out. Cape Town, N1 inbound, fairly slow this morning from Plattekloof Hill all the way to the city centre. And if you're on your way out of Cape Town, stationary truck on Plattekloof Hill causing a backlog out towards Belleville. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
It is 8 minutes to the top of the hour where we're struggling to get a hold of the MEC of Cocta in the Eastern Cape, Zolile Williams, to have a chat about the impact that the adverse weather and inclement weather conditions has had in the Eastern Cape over the last couple of days. 49 people having died in the Eastern Cape as a result of this. We'll continue to try and get a hold of the MEC to bring us the latest and give us an update on what has been taking place and what support is being given to those who have been left vulnerable as a result of this. But I'm taking your calls, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. You can also send me your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. Of course, you can also tweet me. It is at Oliver_speaking on Twitter and Oliver Dickson on Facebook. Let's go back to the lines. Tando in the Eastern Cape, good morning.
It's always very refreshing and very, comforting to listen to sound reason from the likes of Sandile Swana. Certainly, there are people that need to be included there. I mean, you look at people, for instance, like who were hard done by Shell in the Transkei, where Shell was given, a laissez-faire to do whatever, and they put up, and some of them killed. You want people like that to be included. And also another eminent person that needs to be there, for instance, if need be, Mogoeng, another voice of reason. So for me, because what we want in South Africa, like Sandile said, we need economic growth, and that's what we're supposed. And also we need to fight crime. And crime, the way it is handled, criminals are treated with kid gloves. There has to be, the capital punishment has to come back, has to be law. And this supposedly Bible, we so go on about as if it's a Bible, this constitution. It needs to be changed. It's not cast in stone. It's not.
But I mean, that's the point of Parliament, right, Tando? That Parliament quite literally is there to make laws, to bring changes to the Constitution. It's not as though the Constitution is static. No, it's literally not static.
Yeah, but sure, Oliver, these guys, I'm sure they listen to us because South Africans are are always on top of things. We are calling, we are talking. There's no even a need to call another talk show because they can just decipher from what we guys are saying every day. Every now. There's no need for another expensive thingy because these people, that's all they enjoy. Joint overseas, this and that, they think that is actually working. They are working. No, man, this is tiresome.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Mbuyisa out in Ladysmith. Mbuyisa, good morning.
How are you, my brother?
I'm fantastic. Go for it.
Nice one. Look, you had a visitor here by the name of Anne Bernstein.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree with things that she has been saying until she mentioned Zuma's name with regard to the competency of Shamila Batory. I don't know Zuma's era got anything to do with Shamila's competency. I mean, Omotoso's case, Asbestos case, Estina case, is it still Zuma? Really? And now she's raising something that I believe that is racially based, that Shamila must stay, Shauke must go. It can't be. For what good reason? The problem with Shamila, it is an administrative issue. People are accusing her. She's not a court-going prosecutor. She's just a chief executive officer. I mean, the issue is administratively. The issue there, with regard to the NPA, is whether actually the prosecutors are well equipped or do you have good prosecutors. She's an overseer of that. So it got absolutely nothing to do with Zuma's era. That lady, that decision is really racial. It is really, it's baseless. So all I'm saying is that, Oliver, the judge says the prosecutor in Omotoso's matter cannot define what is rape. Is it Zuma's era? I mean, asbestos, they are losing because the extradition apparently was flawed. Are we complaining about Zuma?
Okay.
I mean, thanks very much, Oliver.
Thanks, Mbuyisa. Appreciate it. Pumzile in Humansdorp. Good morning. Go for it.
Good morning, Oliver, and good morning to the listeners. Oliver, I'm seriously perturbed and highly disappointed with the political opportunism displayed by the EFF, capitalizing, in fact, politically so, with the people that have lost lives in the Eastern Cape because of the inclement and adverse weather. And for them to call for the Eastern Cape government to be placed under administration demonstrates that the EFF in the Eastern Cape has run, in fact, out of ideas and they are politically sequestrated, so to speak, because as we speak today, the NEC and the Premier are on the ground, boots on the ground. Where is the EFF? Not even seen on a single footage that they are there sympathizing, assisting the communities in the area of Umtata. So to me, it's totally not, in fact, their approach must be totally rejected with the contempt it deserves. It can't be allowed that these types of people, they play political football, whilst we in government, we are seriously focusing on the crisis at hand. Thank you very much, Oliver.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Pumzile out in Humansdorp. Let's see if we can squeeze one more in or some of your WhatsApp voice notes. Let's have a listen at this.
Morning, Oliver and the listeners. I grew up in Alexandra, and if you see Alexandra, it's only one road, the old Pretoria road that divides Alexandra from Sandton. And look at that. I mean, that inequality, the extremely rich and extremely poor. And the president is asking for people who are elites, who are staying in Sandton, to give a way forward about Alexandra. It's not fair. Mam Zoda from Alex.
Thank you so much for that. Fana in Denelton, good morning.
Hi, thank you, Oliver. You know what, Oliver? These people, they are annoying. They're complaining about the NC, they're complaining about the government and the, what to call them, mediocrity that we get. And yet they go and run to vote for these people. They must stop wailing. They are prepared to be the lumbermen of the ANC, to be the lowlies of the ANC forever. They even deify the ANC, the murderers, the criminals. They bow to them. They must stop complaining. As long as the ANC is there, forget about anything. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Very sweet and short there. We can squeeze in this WhatsApp voice note. Have a listen at this.
Good morning, Oliver and your team. This is Sakilin Tugwin from Gwamshabialingan. You know, Oliver, obviously our biggest enemy is Elon Musk, not Donald Trump. Because if you notice, Donald Trump has been flexible since the fallout between the two. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is 8 o'clock. Let's take your latest news bulletin.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, calls for Eastern Cape government to be placed under administration and US orders partial evacuation of embassy in Iraq. Good morning. The EFF in the Eastern Cape has called for the provincial government to be placed under administration. The call follows floods in which 49 people were killed and hundreds displaced. The EFF has blamed the provincial government for the deaths, saying they could have been avoided if there had been proper infrastructure. EFF Provincial Chairperson Zilindi Levena says officials who failed to ensure there's proper infrastructure must be brought to book.
There was money spent for this infrastructure to be built, to be maintained, and was that done? And who is responsible? So that we can be able to take people to task. Even when these floods have happened, people have been drowning, and the municipality only came after 6 hours, whereas there was weather warnings to say people, even municipalities communicating with the communities, prepared their heavy rains, but the municipality was caught like unprepared.
Meanwhile, the Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Hwagube, says her department has put in place plans to support learners and repair damaged infrastructure in the Eastern Cape. The severe floods have affected the schooling of more than 6,000 learners. More than 70 schools have been damaged. Hwagube says resources are being mobilized at national level.
I also had briefed the president about the matters, particularly surrounding the scholars that were killed in that accident and those who are still missing. So I do believe that due to the scale of the tragedy, we will be able to at least mobilize national resources to come and descend upon this district.
Parliament has highlighted the urgent need to hold accountable those responsible for creating ghost positions in government departments. This after Chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration, Jan de Villiers, revealed a syndicate was orchestrating the creation of ghost employees through systematic corruption. He says the extent of the problem is unknown. De Villiers has also stressed the importance of conducting physical audits to detect ghost employees on the payroll.
We suspect that this type of syndicated criminal activity in the state is actually supported by way more individuals, because you almost need an ecosystem to keep those people on the system and keep paying them their salaries and their leave days and their bonus. So I think that identifying the ghost is one thing, but very importantly, there needs to be investigation and prosecution and then punishment. People going to jail for the creation of these ghost employees.
Government has expressed concern at a decision by the US to sanction 4 judges of the International Criminal Court. It says the action undermines the independence of the ICC and threatens the integrity of international legal institutions. International Relations Minister spokesperson Crispin Piri.
South Africa, as a founding member of the International Criminal Court, views these sanctions and previous threats as an attempt to intimidate and obstruct the court's objective efforts to hold perpetrators of the most serious crimes accountable.
And finally, the US has cited security concerns as the reason for evacuating non-essential staff from its embassy in Baghdad, Iraq. The Pentagon says it will allow military dependents to leave locations around the Middle East due to a heightened risk in the region. A White House spokesperson says the State Department regularly reviews the security risks to personnel abroad. The UK's maritime agency has also warned that increased tensions in the Middle East may lead to an escalation in military activity that could affect shipping in critical waterways. Showan Bryce-Peace reports.
But the partial evacuations come after 18 months of war in Gaza that is fraying relations even among close Western allies, amid growing concern that tensions between Israel and Iran could spill over into a direct confrontation. US President Donald Trump indicated Wednesday that he was growing less confident that Tehran would agree to stop enriching uranium as part of a new US-led negotiation over Iran's nuclear program, which could lead to sanctions relief. Iran has long stated that it does not seek to develop a nuclear weapon, and its defense minister indicated Wednesday that were Iran to be subjected to strikes, it would retaliate by hitting US bases in the region.
Recapping the top story, the EFF in the Eastern Cape has called for the provincial government to be placed under administration. The call follows floods in which 49 people were killed and hundreds displaced. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
With all the recent headlines, it's time for some good news. A 25-year-old man, Tyler, is smiling all the way to the bank. He switched to Outsurance and now saves a whopping 718 Rand a month on the insurance of his 2021 Ford Figo 1.5. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you and your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, cricket, the Proteas captain Themba Bavuma out to silence the critics. And we also have rugby. The Bulls head to Dublin for the United Rugby Championship final against Leinster. Details just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The R59 truck crash scene coming out of the Vaal towards Alberton has been clear. The big backlog on the R59 Joburg bound has been released. Broken down vehicle around Malabongwe on the M1 North. Just watch us some delays coming up from Randburg into that one. The R21 North at Tembisa with the roadworks this morning just up before or around the Olifantsfontein exit. Quite a heavy backlog on your way into that Clayville exit heading towards Pretoria. Crash on Pretoria's N4 inbound at the N1 highway. That's causing a big backlog coming into Pretoria as well as causing a lot of localized congestion on local routes in the area. Major crash and a big mess on the N2 Nsileni area north of Mpangeni and Richards Bay. The N2 under pressure. It looks like it probably will be for some time as they clear that truck crash scene. The M4 leaving Durban on your way to Umhlanga. Quite heavy up towards Virginia Airport. A broken down vehicle blocking the N3 inbound ramp to the N2 south at Spaghetti Junction. N3 dealing with that back from around about Paradise Valley through Spaghetti Junction down to the next exit, which is Sherwood. Cape Town, Govan and Becky, Danafontein Road. Roadworks there causing big delays at the bottom of Nyanga. And traffic lights still out. Stellenbosch Arterial at Westbank Main. That's heavy towards the R300. And a broken down truck on Plattercliff Hill, slowing traffic N1 outbound towards Belleville. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
A new COVID-19 variant, NB181, is beginning to gain traction in the US and globally. It was identified in January this year and has been detected in over 20 countries. I have a friend who last week was down with COVID, in all likeliness, this variant. We're going to be speaking to Dr. Nicole Volter, who is Principal Medical Scientist and the Director for the Influenza Center at the Respiratory Disease and Meningitis at the NICD. And then we're going to be talking about a critical shortage of mechanics in South African police service garages across Gauteng, which is apparently why many of their vehicles aren't working and why police visibility and crime prevention has been compromised. We're going to be speaking to Krizan Bosch, who's a member of the provincial legislature in Gauteng, on this matter for the Democratic Alliance. All of that and more coming up on the show in this hour. I'm taking your calls throughout, and I'm taking your WhatsApp voice notes. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107, and tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dickson on Facebook. It's 9 minutes after 8.
Welcome back to the sun-drenched shores of St. Marie, where the beaches are beautiful and the murders are mysterious. It's Death in Paradise Season 7. New cases, quirky suspects, and D.I. Jack Mooney, who's still figuring out the island and how to drink coconut water gracefully. Catch the show where paradise meets puzzling crime, because even in paradise, someone always has a secret. Death in Paradise Season 7, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 28 May. S3, open up.
What if you open up more? Open up to learning and experiencing more of Mzansi and abroad. What if you open up culture and explore the extraordinary, from music to drama and the latest fashion? What if you open up your wild side, discover a world of skyscraping cities and brown sugar beaches? What if you open up your kitchen and immerse yourself in cuisines from all corners of the world? What if you open up your voice with all eyes on you without being seen? What if you open up your morning to lekker conversations and world-class entertainment? What if you open up more?
You are listening to Oliver Dickson on SAFM.
11 minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us. Really do appreciate it. A new COVID-19 variant has been detected. NB181 is what it goes by right now. Dr. Nicole Walter is with us this morning, who is with the NICD. Dr. Walter, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. What do we know about this new variant?
Good morning, Oliver. So NB181 is one of the new variants of SARS-CoV-2, which we know is the virus that causes COVID-19. It's not really unexpected for new variants to be detected, because we know that this virus, like most other respiratory viruses, will continue to evolve and change over time. So we continue to monitor for new variants, and we continue to detect new variants all the time. And NB181 is just one of the newer ones that has been detected. It's one of the ones that has been declared by the World Health Organization as a variant under monitoring, which just means that it's one of the variants that we are going to monitor quite closely going forward.
What is the reason for that? Is its virality higher than previous variants? Is its epidemiological impact higher than other variants? Why is it being closely monitored?
So it's not the only one that's been closely monitored. The WHO has a system ongoing around the world to rapidly be able to detect emerging variants. And if they have certain qualities about them that look like they may be concerning, so they have new mutations, that they look like they're more transmissible than other variants, then the WHO classifies them in different levels, either being variant under monitoring, variant of interest, or variant of concern. So this is still on the very lowest level, variant under monitoring, which just means watch. And why it's being considered a variant under monitoring is because if we have a look at the sequence of the genome, there's a couple of mutations in the genome which indicate that it may be more transmissible than other currently circulating variants. But at the moment, no data indicates that there's any change in the symptoms and no change in the severity of disease or causes, just that in the places where it has been detected, it is increasing in the number of cases, not in severity, but more cases being reported. So the WHO considers that one of the variants that should then be watched more closely.
Yeah. And when the watching happens, what sort of data is being recorded here?
So South Africa, and this is many countries in the world, have very strong systems to continue to monitor respiratory viruses. In South Africa, we have systems at the NICD, which are our respiratory illness surveillance programs. So we have sentinel sites at a number of different hospitals and public health clinics throughout the country, where we routinely monitor what viruses are circulating. We collect samples, we test them, and then we also sequence them to see how the virus is changing, if there are any new variants emerging. We also use those systems to have a look at how many cases are occurring. Are we seeing increases? Are we seeing more severe disease? So all of these systems take place on a continuous basis. And so we regularly monitor what's happening with all respiratory viruses in the country, and then many other countries have similar systems in place.
Yeah. And a lot more people are reporting quite a severe flu. In fact, I had it and I was down quite severely. So a colleague of mine was somewhat bedridden for 3 to 4 days, which is unlike the regular flu. People aren't testing for COVID-19. So how do we know if we're having just the regular flu or if potentially we're having some variant of COVID?
Oliver, I think it's important to distinguish between flu and the influenza virus. So we are in our winter season. South Africa is currently in our respiratory season, which means this is the season that we see most of our respiratory viruses circulating. And importantly, we're in the middle of our influenza season. So influenza season is a virus that causes flu, but there's also many other viruses that cause the condition which people know as flu. So at the moment, we are not seeing this new variant in South Africa. And in fact, the cases of COVID are actually very low in the country. But what we are seeing is that other respiratory viruses, so such as influenza, RSV is starting to decrease, but it's likely that influenza is causing the majority of what we're seeing at the moment. And it does cause a relatively mild illness, but it may warrant a few days in bed, causes fever and headaches and body aches. And this is very normal for this time of year. We normally have our flu season between May and September each year.
Yeah.
So just because we're seeing an increase in illness and flu and general respiratory conditions doesn't mean that it's caused by COVID.
Do we know if any COVID variant is currently in circulation in South Africa?
So there are always variants in circulation. They seem to increase and decrease, and we monitor that on an ongoing basis. The one that's dominant at the moment in South Africa is actually one called LP8.1, so it's a different one to MB181. But again, we expect that MB181 will come into the country, and we'll continue to monitor that. But at any point in time, we have multiple different variants circulating, but at the moment, the number of cases are very low.
Yeah. Do people need to be worried? I mean, I think we reached herd immunity in South Africa through vaccinations a few years ago. We haven't really heard of COVID-related deaths since, and it seems to be quite mild when people contract COVID. Do we need to be worried? Is there any cause for concern?
So I don't think there's any cause for concern at the moment. In fact, the World Health Organization has considered the public health risk of this new variant to be very low. So I think nothing for the public to be concerned about. We do continuously monitor. We do expect this virus to continue to change and continue to see new variants emerging. And as I mentioned, there's nothing that indicates at the moment that this causes any more severe disease than the other variants. So nothing to be concerned about. But just to be aware that we are in our respiratory season, there are many viruses circulating at the moment, and so people should just protect themselves like they would for any other respiratory virus.
Yeah.
So it means good hygiene, hand washing, staying at home when you're not feeling well. So trying to prevent the spread of all respiratory viruses, but nothing in particular to be concerned about this virus.
Mm-mm. Would you encourage people to get tested for COVID-19 if they feel that what they're experiencing is a little bit more severe than just the ordinary flu?
Yes, I would. I think it's based on a clinician's decision, so they will decide whether it warrants testing or not. But it does help us through testing to be able to monitor what's happening in the country, and very importantly, to get specimens that we can use for sequencing and gives us data to see what variants are circulating. But that's very much guided by the clinician's decision when they make the assessment, and if they think testing is needed and would in somehow change treatment or the handling of that particular person.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Dr. Nicole Walter, thank you so much for your time and your insights this morning. I really do appreciate it. That's Dr. Nicole Walter with the NICD, Principal Medical Scientist and Director for the Influenza Center at the Respiratory Diseases and Meningitis at the NICD. I'm taking your calls and reactions. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Of course, you can tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dickson on Facebook, 19 minutes after 8.
The Blue Diamonds want to play their hearts out to secure important 3 points. But Masandawana ladies believe victory belongs to them. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the big clash of giants, JVW ladies and Mamelodi Sundowns ladies, the Sunday 15 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals. After a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Tusopala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
20 minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. What's on your mind this morning? Jack in Bulukwane, good morning.
Good morning, Oliver. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Jack. Go for it.
Good. I just want to talk about the policemen. I think our police are failing this country. You remember yesterday on the news, there were 3 policemen arrested who were escorting a truck full of dacha. And then you look at all these foreigners that are in the country. They come through the borders where the police are. And it's worrying. If you, like me in Polokwane, you find that they catch a bus here full of foreigners. And these people pass through the border where the police are. And then there is this TV program on Sundays called X-Depot. Last week, I think they went to Jimistan Cash and Carry. They found about 60 illegal people from Malawi, from Mozambique, from Somalia. And the police were called. And the police came there, distracted those people so that those foreigners can all run away. You understand? They end up all running away. I mean, are we protected? Where do we have to trust this police acting like this?
Yeah, okay.
I'm not saying all the police, some are good, but I can tell you I've lost trust in them.
Yeah.
After watching that program, they found 60 illegal people without any documentation. And the police came and they distracted them to say there's a shooting inside. And then those people ran away, all of them.
Yeah. Jack, thank you so much for that call. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Really do appreciate it. Jack calling us there from Polokwane. Give us a call, 086 000 2032. France in Bloemfontein, good morning.
Hello, Oliver. How are you?
Hi, France. Go for it.
Yes, Oliver. I am Mr. Franz Krausuk here, the chairperson of the Free State Griqua Council in the Free State. Oliver, man, the national dialogue that the president is called on, it's very good. The only concern that I'm having from the Khoi and San communities in South Africa, every time since 1996, when there's national dialogues or issues to be discussed of importance, the Khoi and San communities are always left behind. And I want to urge the president to really look at the constitution of the committee that he's established there. The House of Traditional Leaders will be present, but the Khoi and San, the custodians, are not present of this process. So I'll urge him that he must re-look at his compilation of that and try to get the National Khoi and San Council, who is the mouthpiece of Khoi and San communities in South Africa, on this panel. Because the Constitutional Court have also derailed now to take our case out for the next 2 years, where Act number 3 is now a bill, is going to be renewed, and they are going to re-look on it. And then still for this 30 years, the Khoi and San communities are out of all the activities and as far as the traditional affairs are. Yeah. So that is a good thing of the national dialogue, but at the center of it all, the National Khoi and San Council must be part of it, and the Khoi and San community, since with the constitutional formulation, they were not part of it, And it is always important to place us also at the center in this country. Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it, France in Bloemfontein. Let's speak to Zoe in King Williamstown. Zoe, good morning.
Goeiemorgen, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Go for it. What's on your mind this morning?
I listened to EFF Commissar, the Eastern Cape, his comments about the Eastern Cape, that it needs to be put under administration. I can't agree more, Oliver. Here where I am, that's exactly what is on my mind. Yeah, that the ANC in the Eastern Cape has failed totally in the rural areas here. That's where I am. Everything, I can't even point one. We close the roads, trying to bring to their attention water shortages. Water that was there, put by the previous administration of Lennox Sebe under the Homeless Bantustan system. So we can't help but be nostalgic to those bad old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys don't know what is to be done or how it must be done. I mean, there's a big problem when you don't know what must be done and how it must be done.
Yeah.
They are no engineers. I asked them one day, one time when the municipality was here, they give themselves 95% in performance. I said, how can you give yourself a distinction when you are a failed municipality? That's to pass. I mean, sure, we are in deep trouble. So it would be good if you were to have that guy and another chap to defend their case.
You know,
I
had an interesting conversation with someone that works in the presidency related to the working groups that they have going on in Durban and in Johannesburg, and asked, why is this model being used to replace taking an institution under administration? And they said, usually what we've seen is that taking an institution like a local government or provincial government or a department under administration doesn't necessarily always yield positive results. Oftentimes, it doesn't. It's a frustrating process, and this is why they're trying the more collaborative approach. But fascinating that you agree there for the Eastern Cape to be taken under administration. Magdalene in Bloemfontein, good morning.
Morning, Oliver and the listeners. Oliver, I had a trauma. I don't know for how long now. I watched Crime Watch, and yesterday was all about cars being hijacked while you enter your place, your own house. And what I realized is that definitely we've been crying, South Africans. Even now, the slogan which they use for this national dialogue on ENCA is "Cry the beloved country." Somebody said it a long time ago. I think it's 2 or 3 years ago. Always when you talk here, is somebody who will listen to is a listener to SAFM. He will say, "Cry the beloved country." So I'm definitely aware that ANC has failed us. So there's no way that we could look for any adventure to can rescue ourselves from the ANC. Point is, the ambassador of Zimbabwe, from those South Africans who are arrested and imprisoned in Zimbabwe, he said it's clear. We are applying the laws of Zimbabwe. Those people came here in Zimbabwe illegally. So they need to be incarcerated. So we incarcerated them. So South Africa is a banana country. They don't want to apply their own laws. So we are applying our own laws. So there's no African renaissance. There's
Magdalene,
no African renaissance.
Thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it. Magdalene calling us there from Bloemfontein. Let's have a listen at this WhatsApp voice note.
Oliver, I think one thing that's making DSTV lose listenership is that people have lost touch with these wag channels of Moja Love and whatever. People are listening to podcasts right now, so they must just open up a channel whereby it would just be podcasts. 24 hours. I'm telling you, listenership is gonna go up.
Okay. I mean, they did try to get some podcasts broadcasted on there, like the that podcast of that belligerent bigot whose name I won't mention, and it didn't work out because it was cancelled after a couple of weeks. It's not just a podcasting issue that's challenging that. In fact, it can coexist. DSTV is just inordinately expensive. People can't afford it. Yeah, 28 minutes after 8, Zai's here with your latest in sports.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Big week in the URC final. Bulls obviously taking on Leinster after winning against the Sharks and after Leinster won against Glasgow Warriors. Obviously, as a South African, I've got my money on the Bulls. I am a Bulls supporter. I grew up in Gauteng, and I think we're gonna see some really big moments from the Bulls. Edwil van der Merwe, I think, is gonna have a good game. Sorry, not Edwil. Kanan Moody. My apologies. I think is gonna have a really good game. Ergius Snyman, of course, playing for Leinster. Are you excited to see what he has on offer?
He's going to
stop. Basically South Africa versus South Africa, right?
Yes, they're going to stop Leinster, man, early, or it's just going to... No, we cannot say surrender momentum, but that's what we're hoping for.
It's half the Irish national team playing for Leinster.
Yeah.
So it's basically...
South Africans and the Irish team.
Yeah.
Taking on the South African team. Jake White versus Jacques Ninapa. It's going to be interesting, especially in Dublin. And the Bulls know they have to be sharp. They have to be ready for this United Rugby Championship final. Taking place on Saturday, 6 p.m. Loose forward Marcel Coetzee saying the key to victory will be relentless. That's their work rate and avoiding soft moments. Coetzee highlighting the need to blunt Leinster's quick strike power while also imposing their own forward dominance through players like Kobus Visser and Jan-Hendrik Wessels and Coetzee himself. From there, we've got some great news with the cricket front, and it's our captain who is leading from the front as the Proteas stunned Australia at Lord's in the World Test Championship final, not with the bat, but the ball. Kagiso Rabada leading the assault with a 5 for 51, skittling the Aussies for just 212, but in reply, the Proteas collapsed to 43 for 4 by stumps, with only Temba Bavuma surviving the early carnage. He'll resume with David Bedingham on day 2 as South Africa look to rebuild. Meanwhile, golf, John Rahm and Scottie Scheffler are making waves for very different reasons at the US Open. Rahm's fire meetings Scheffler's ice, and both are chasing the trophy, and that's the US Open trophy, with equal hunger. So that's a close one to watch. And elsewhere, soccer, CONCACAF saying it remains in close and ongoing communications with local authorities, host venues, and the participating national teams, especially regarding the stadium issue in Los Angeles. But elsewhere, it seems to be all systems go.
Our concern and our goal is to make sure that everyone that comes to New York, New Jersey has an incredible time and sees the uniqueness that is not just the United States, but New York, New Jersey. And so, what we're seeing right now is, I was just in Munich for UEFA. People are super excited about the World Cup being in the United States. They're really excited about the finals being here in New York, New Jersey.
And that's where we'll leave it for now. John Heriker will be right here bringing you all your sports for SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the South African Federation of Trade Unions has expressed concerns over the World Bank's recently approved loan to South Africa. The Labour Federation has argued that the 26 billion rand loan will worsen the country's dependence on foreign creditors. The EFF in the Eastern Cape has called for the provincial government to be placed under administration. The call followed floods in which 49 people were killed and hundreds displaced. And an uneasy calm has descended over Los Angeles as U.S. Marines prepare to deploy to the city. This comes after nearly a week of protests and riots over the Trump administration's immigration raids. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
R59 is all clear. No protesting this morning, and the earlier truck crash that happened in that same area has been cleared and released all the backlog a while ago. There is just a little bit of a hold up top end of the R59. There's a bit of an operation as you come up into Talisa Park, so through Reading Interchange up to South Rand Road. That's pretty heavily backed up. Crash on Joburg's Mike 1 South between Woodmead and Marlborough. That's causing a bit of chaos through the Buccleuch Interchange. N1 from Allendale, N3 from Alex, N1 from Rivonia. All very slow, sort of negotiating the traffic backlog through Buccleuch down towards the the Marlborough Drive exit. Roadworks on the R21 causing delays passing Tembisa on your way to Pretoria towards Olifantsfontein Road. Truck crash recovery still underway. It is a bit of a mess. I thought it might have just been a two-truck collision that they needed to clear up, but at least one of those trucks has dropped a major mess on the N2 Nsileni. So north of Mpangeni and Richards Bay, there's some really big traffic both ways through there. Breakdown on Durban's N2 North going up to Gateway, one on the N2 South before Spaghetti Junction, delays both directions there. And Cape Town, the N2 inbound staying busy this morning with a breakdown at Hospital Bend. Behind that, the M5 is queuing up through Rondebosch to get into that N2, and the M3 pushing a queue to Hospital Bend back as far as Rhodes Drive. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
It is 25 minutes to the top of the hour, and Ntaleng is back with the business update. And Ntaleng, we start with business confidence indicators for the month of May. What do we have?
Now, this business confidence index is from the South African Chamber of Commerce, and it measures sentiment on a month-on-month basis, unlike the RMB BER indicator that measures morale on a quarterly basis. Back to the SACU PCI, the index increased to 115.8 in May from 114.9. This modest uptick was driven by a stronger rand, higher share prices, and increased global prices for precious metals. But some gains were offset by declines in imports, slowing tourism, and downbeat manufacturing output. Morale has been trending downward since February, when it reached a peak of 125.8 amid global trade tensions, weak export performance, and uncertainty over fiscal policy. Now, Saki notes that while the financial environment supported the business climate in May, subdued economic activity has had a dampening effect. And so it warns that the country's low savings rate, weak GDP growth, and global trade disruptions pose risks to investment and confidence. The Chamber is calling for urgent reforms to reduce bureaucracy, cut unnecessary spending, and boost overall productivity in different sectors.
Yeah. Pan-African Resources plans to be debt-free by the end of next year.
That's right, Oliver. Now, the miner confirmed that record gold prices have continued to boost its balance sheet, helping it pay 1.3 billion rands in debt in the year to end June, reducing its net debt by 32% to 2.75 billion rands. Now, at current gold prices, Pan-African expects to pay off all its debt during the current financial year. The company's operational performance has also improved, with a record of 112,000 ounces of gold production in the second half, up 32% from the first 6 months. The increase was driven by improved output from its Barberton underground operations and the successful ramp-up at its Mogale tailings retreatment operations. Looking ahead, the company expects full-year gold production to rise 6% this year, followed by a 40% increase in the next financial year, with production guidance set at 275,000 to 292,000 ounces of gold. CEO Kobus Lutz stated that the company has never been better positioned to take advantage of the current market conditions, with record gold prices expected to further boost the company's performance.
Yeah, it is about 22 minutes before the markets open. What are we looking at today?
So we're likely in for another day of mixed trade following international peers. It's also a quiet day on the company news front, so investors will be tracking international news. Meanwhile, in currency markets, the rand remains resilient, on track to break below the 1770 mark. It's at 70.71 to the dollar this hour. Over in Wall Street, futures are in negative territory, extending some of yesterday's losses, and focus there is on the recent inflation print. Lastly, in Asia, stocks are likely to close mixed today as the trade truce optimism starts fizzling out.
Yeah, Ntaleng, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. We'll check in with you again tomorrow to take a look at the markets once again. I'm taking your calls and reactions. Give me a call, 086 000 2032. I'm going to be in conversation with Krizan Bosch of the Democratic Alliance, and this on SAPS having said that they do not have enough mechanics. We'll talk about that. And I want to ask you this, just before Zai left the studio just now, we had spoken about the weather. It's been really, really, really cold in Johannesburg. And honestly, this is my first day of experiencing the cold wave, so to speak. Last week, over the weekend on Friday and Saturday, I was in Durban and I was able to go to the beach in Durban. It was really, really, really warm. I came to Joburg just before the cold wave started hitting Joburg on Sunday, but then I left for Cape Town Monday morning. And Cape Town's been very warm for the last 3 days. I was there up until yesterday evening, and I really enjoyed the best of Cape Town's weather. And when I got to Joburg this morning, incredibly cold. On my way to the studio. In fact, I'm wearing more layers of clothing today than I usually do. It seems like I was able to evade bad weather because I was not in one place for a particularly long time. If you're experiencing good weather today for the first time where you are, tell us where you are. Send me a WhatsApp voice note and tell me what you plan on doing with the good weather. If you're by the beach, are you going to the beach? Are you doing laundry today? What are you intending on doing with today's good and seemingly warm weather? 0614-104-107. I'd love to hear your WhatsApp voice notes on that. On the other side of this, we speak to Krizan Bosch.
In a land scorched by the sun and shaped by time, life refuses to surrender. From the silent stalk of the Arabian leopard to the resilient march of the sand gazelle, witness nature's fiercest survivors. Arabian Inferno, a journey into one of Earth's most extreme habitats where every day is a battle for survival. This is the wild. This is Arabian Inferno. Sundays at 6 p.m. on S3. Open up.
As a business owner, I've noticed how being energy efficient has improved my savings and the growth of my business. You too can improve your margins by adopting energy efficient behaviors. Simply switch to energy saving lighting, switch off non-essential equipment, and maintain HVAC systems. These are some of the ways you can use electricity wisely to see your business soar as well as contribute to a greener planet. Just like every rand counts, every kilowatt counts. Let's use electricity wisely. Eskom.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
20 minutes to the top of the hour. In Gauteng, many police stations don't have enough operating vehicles, some having no operating vehicles, meaning that the police of that station can't go out to fight crime or are even able to be visible. When police vehicles are taken in for repairs or services by the SAPS workshops, they often sit there for up to a year just unrepaired, which of course has an adverse impact on its operational capacity. And this is because SAPS has 372 posts for mechanics in its workshops, but only 262 of those are currently occupied. There's a shortage or unfilled position of 110 mechanics in Gauteng, and this was revealed in a question to the Premier in the legislature by the Democratic Alliance Shadow MEC for Community Safety, Krizan Bosch. Krizan is a member of the provincial legislature. Krizan, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Perhaps to ask this, Krizan, what prompted this question?
Well, over the last 2 years, I really made an effort to go and visit all the various different police stations. I managed to visit majority of them. There's still one or two that I haven't been to. But when you go and visit these police stations in unannounced visits, one of the questions that I asked them was about the human and physical resources, including their vehicles. And continuously the query was raised that they don't have sufficient vehicles, number one, but the vehicles that they have on the system, quite frequently a number of them are stuck in garages. And whenever I ask them, okay, so why are these vehicles in the garages? In some instances, it would be something very minor. It wouldn't even be, it's just a basic service or something that went wrong with, like a flat battery, for instance. It's sometimes really not a big issue. And when I asked the question, so when are you getting these vehicles back, or when was it booked into the garage, you would start to discover that some of these vehicles have been there for anything between 60 days to even more than 300 days. I've even found vehicles that's been there for 400, 500 days. And it raises a question as to why aren't these vehicles repaired. So my initial thinking was that there's just a lot of bureaucracy going on and a lot of red tape. And I decided to, put the questions into the MEC. Unfortunately, the previous MEC didn't answer the question, so I had to resubmit them now in the new term directly to the Premier. And he then responded back to say that, there's 110 vacancies with mechanics. And I mean, this is a very specific skill that you need. This is not just anyone that you appoint, to do this job. But there's a lot of mechanics that doesn't have jobs at the moment, that's unemployed. So it's not like we don't have the people in our country to actually fill these positions. I think it's a lack of political will to actually try and address the real problem. So, and this is a critical problem for us, because if you don't fill these vacancies, the vehicles doesn't get repaired and the vehicles doesn't return to the police station. So they don't have sufficient vehicles to do visible policing or to attend to complaints and queries, if there's break-ins, for instance, or, some crime taking place at a property.
What was the answer by the Premier as to why, or even by SEPs themselves as to why those vacancies have not been filled?
Well, the answer was, I, for instance, asked for how long have these vacancies been unfilled. He pivoted away without giving me a clear answer on it, and just said that this is a specialized skill, and they, need to appoint people that's got the required mechanical skills. Now, that's common sense. You're obviously not going to appoint someone that is working with finances to become a mechanic, for instance, in a garage, just to give you a simple example. But his answer is really not sufficient at this stage, and this is why the Democratic Alliance has urged that he engage the provincial commissioner as well as the minister for police, because as every MEC and Premier have got the right, in accordance with legislation, to put together a needs and priorities list of what the province needs when it comes to resources. And they need to submit this to the Minister of Police for consideration, and how to provide the required assistance and resources to provinces to fight crime. And this has not been done. I did ask a question in the committee previously as to what is Gauteng's needs and priorities list, and they couldn't answer me. And this is clearly one of those needs. I mean, if you've got a 32% vacancy rate in something like this, and it has a direct impact on fighting crime, then you can throw all the technology and wardens in the world, to try and fight crime, but you're not fixing the basics. And you first got to fix the basics if you want to try and fight crime.
Yeah. Lizanne, thank you so much. Krizan, rather. Thank you so much for your time on that. I really, really do appreciate it. Krizan Bosch, who is with the Democratic Alliance in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Let's take a call. Luvo in PE, you've got some experience with this. Good morning.
Morning, Oliver.
Yes,
Oliver,
Luvo, go for it.
Let's put things into clarity. This is a hogwash. It's not about the mechanics. You go to all the workshops, come here in Eastern Cape, all the such workshops, the municipality workshops. The cars are there, parked there, they are full. It's not about the mechanics. It's about them not paying the service providers. That is the problem. Now the service providers have made a U-turn. They want cash. If they buy, they must pay cash. Yes, it's not about the mechanics. Those mechanics are there. They don't have work. They will place an order. They will submit a requisition for a part. It will never come. That's what is happening. Now that's why most cars are standing there. Now those mechanics will take maybe another car come for something else. They will take a part and try to improvise for the next car to move. Meaning it's not about the mechanics. It's about the SEPs. Does it pay the service providers? Even the municipalities, the same thing, all the workshops. I'm talking from the experience.
Were you a mechanic and a workshop owner that provided services, mechanical services to SAPs?
We used to supply them with parts.
And how long would you ordinarily wait for payment?
You will supply a part. I'm telling you, they'll tell you it's 30 days payment. you will wait for 90 or 120 days.
My goodness.
That's why. They must tell the truth. It's not about the mechanics. It's about them not paying the service providers. Same thing with the municipalities. Come to the municipality workshop here in Eastern Cape from PE up until Tata. The workshops are full of trucks standing there. And then what they do, I don't know why they do it intentionally, the municipalities. The municipalities will hire someone outside, meaning a tender, a truck outside, meaning it's all corruption, man. It's all corruption. The SAPs, the same thing. Get someone from accounts departments or from procurement, from SAPs, and come and tell the truth on national radio. It's not about the mechanics. It's about them not paying the service providers. I don't know who you can talk to there.
Yeah, Luvo, thank you so much for sharing that experience and bringing that to our attention. I definitely think this is something worth taking up with the department, with SAPS, perhaps the DG or the minister directly, so we can have a sense of why it is that service providers aren't being paid by SAPS for vehicles to be repaired timeously. I'm taking your calls and reactions, 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dickson on Facebook. Rob Byrne has your latest traffic.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
13 Southern African nations and North African guests, Morocco, will battle it out for the ultimate glory in the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Cup 2025 in Mangaung, Bloemfontein. Catch the beautiful game on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1 from 4 to 15 June. Stay tuned to SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric, mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, the Maclew interchange is very slow going. There's been a crash on the Mike 1 south between Woodmead and Marlborough, and that just is snarling up the whole interchange. So Mike 1 towards Sandton's heavy, N3 up into Maclew from Limborough Park, N1 from Rivonia, and the N1 from Allendale. All just slow and sluggish in that area. R21, the roadwork still backlogging you passing Tembisa. On your way towards Pretoria, the roadworks there between Bobsfontein Road and the Olifantsfontein Road exit. Pretoria, all clear. The crashing on the N4 is out of the way. There is that problematic set of lights. Gauteng, Solomon, Mshangi, that's still a bit slow. The other big story we've been keeping an eye on this morning is the situation in Seleni, north of Richards Bay and Mpangeni. Truck crash, 2 trucks involved with a bit of a big mess on the road, actually, by one of them losing its load, and recovery of that still underway. So there is a significant backlog on the N2 both ways through Seleni. If you don't fancy sitting in that, travel later. 2 breakdowns around Durban highways this morning, one going north on the N2 to Gateway and one going south into Spaghetti Junction. So the usual sort of spots where vehicles break down and the resulting queues behind them as well. Cape Town, broken down vehicle at Hospital Bend, so the N2 inbound slow going from Langa. N1's under a bit of pressure this morning with a busy run through the city centre. You'll pick up traffic around N1 City right through to Elevated Freeway. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
8 minutes to the top of the hour, taking some of your calls, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Deboro out in Free State, in the Free State. Deboro, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you, Oliver?
I'm fantastic. Go for it. What's on your mind?
I'm fine, Oliver. Oliver, I'm so dejected about the ongoing process of registering other shops, because here I have a problem.
Yeah.
Our court, I don't understand how did they arrive to give some of the other shops the thing.
Deborah, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, Oliver.
Yes, sorry, your line just cut there for a second. So
Okay,
you're saying
yes.
you don't know how they got to the conclusion of the registration of some of the spaza shops. Why is that?
Yes, because Oliver, some of these people, they don't take our law serious. For example, we've got a Reserve Bank in the for South Africa.
You've got a what? Sorry, say that again.
A Reserve Bank.
Okay.
Bank. Some of the shops, they don't take 10%. Some of the shops, they don't take 50%. But at the same time, we are told that 10% and 20% are allowed to be used in the public of South Africa. But these people, they've got the penny for trading. How do they get the penny? Some of them, they are open about the price fixing. If you buy maybe the voucher for Vodacom, it's written 12 rand outside, but they will take it 18 rand for Vodacom. What is that?
Yeah.
These are the foreigners. They don't care about the laws of this country. They don't respect the laws of this country. I'm sorry. I'm not against the foreigners.
Well, I mean, it's not a law that you have to sell a thing for its prescribed price, right? And of course, you buy that which you are willing to buy. It's not unusual for retailers to say, hey, I'm putting a premium on top of this thing. That's certainly not a law. But it certainly is perhaps consumer practice that's not nice, and perhaps there must be a conversation about whether or not the Consumer Protection Act must take a look into deviating from prescribed pricing. But thanks a lot for your call, Deborah. Appreciate it. Deborah calling us there from the Free State. Lubabalo out in Gugulethu. Lubabalo, good morning.
Hi, Oliver. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Go for it.
Oliver, I would like to speak about Oscar Mabuyane, the current Premier of the Eastern Cape. He has been the Premier for more than about 7 years now, and before that he occupied provincial legislation roles, meaning he's always been a senior in all the roles that he had in the Eastern Cape. Now, I listened to him clearly yesterday as he was outlining the disaster happening there due to weather, and I can see that this guy has no solution. He speaks as if he's a councillor, in a day. He's like waiting for funding, waiting for his reporting, this and that. The people in the ground are not experiencing any joy with any of the leadership that is there in the Eastern Cape. It's a very sad situation, Oliver.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot for that. I mean, some people have a very similar view to yours, Lubabalo, but thanks a lot for bringing that up. Appreciate it. Tula out in the East Rand. Good morning.
Good morning, Oliver. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Go for it.
Thanks very much. I want to contribute on the issue we've been talking about SAPs having shortage of mechanics. I think the government would, this issue of unemployment, they should stop these tender issues. If those people are employed by the government, like let's say for Department of Housing, SAPs, mechanics, they employ those people. Those people will also contribute to the fiscus because they'll be paying tax. So the issue that can help people get employed is to stop the issue of this tender thing. They should stop. Instead, public works should start doing all those jobs, employing people, and then the people after getting employed by the government, they'll be paying tax. Thanks. That's what I wanted to say.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Tula's calling there from East Rand Mall. Let's have a listen at some of your WhatsApp voice notes that's come through on our WhatsApp line this morning.
Good morning, Bro Olives. People always complaining, and they must know that they are not born in Sandton. They have a lucky, get a job or well educated and go and buy a good place in Sandton. Maybe some of them, they are coming from rural areas. Amen.
Hi, Oliver. My question is, how many commissions did we have in the past and we are still having even recently? But after those commissions, what is the tangible results that we can point at that these commissions have produced? So even this dialogue, I think, is just a waste of time. The most important thing for me is to get rid of ANC. ANC is the problem for this country. That's the only thing.
Good morning, Oliver. It's Fugane from Tepen. Oliver, I honestly don't think your guest is being truthful. Shamila Patsoe said the NPA is being captured right now. Zuma has been out for almost 10 years. This thing of always saying Zuma is no longer in power. He's an opposition member. So how could he capture the NPA? It's those who are in power now who are capturing the NPA, and this thing of making the interviews private will create more incompetence, and state capture will continue under that thing. We need to see how incompetent those people are and why are they being chosen if they're incompetent.
Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. One more. Let's see.
Hi, morning, Oliver. It's Yalezo here in Mtata. Oliver, it's unfortunate what has happened. Inclement weather and flooding. But unfortunately, Oliver, most of these houses that have been affected by these floods are built in what you call a flood line. People have forced and built houses along the Mtata River. I mean, yes, now it's bad, but people must start to listen to authorities, because when people built these houses, they were told not to do so, but they forced their way through.
Hi, Oliver. Errol from Durban. Yeah, you were quite right. About a week ago, you said our top order batsmen often let us down in Test cricket. Yeah, they must come to the party. So it's the same in this test. I mean, 4 wickets down for 40 runs. Yeah, it's not great. No, you were right. Let's just hope our middle order batsmen and our bowlers can pull us through. Errol, Durban.
It's always been our bowlers that save us when it comes down to crunch time. Thank you so much for that, Errol. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for all your calls and WhatsApp voice notes. I really do appreciate it for engaging me. I'm back with you tomorrow here once again on the morning brief, standing in for Tulas. And I'm back with you tonight on Night Talk at 10 p.m. So do tune in for that. For myself and the team, it's goodbye for now. It's 9 o'clock.
In our top stories, SAFTU raises concerns over World Bank loan granted to South African government, and Soweto residents protest against electricity cuts. Good morning. The South African Federation of Trade Unions, SAFTU, has expressed concerns over the World Bank's recently approved loan to South Africa. The Labour Federation has argued that the 26 billion rand loan will worsen the country's dependence on foreign creditors. The loan is intended to support structural reforms which are aimed at improving the country's infrastructure. SAFTU also says South Africa has already seen the devastating impact of conditionally linked loans, which it attributed to the creation of ArcelorMittal. The General Secretary, Zulinzima Vavi.
We think that this is basically a return to the structural adjustment programs that are being pushed by the Bretton Woods institutions such as the bank itself as well as the World Bank, which is a push for commercialization and privatization, opening of the public infrastructure for profit corporate interests, a debt denominated in foreign currency, exposing us to massive exchange rate and the risks and the austerity and budget cuts disguised as fiscal consolidation.
The EFF in the Eastern Cape has called for the provincial government to be placed under administration. The call follows floods in which 49 people were killed and hundreds displaced. The EFF has blamed the provincial government for the deaths, saying they could have been avoided if there'd been proper infrastructure. EFF Provincial Chairperson Zilindi Levena says officials who failed to ensure there's proper infrastructure must be brought to book.
There was money spent for this infrastructure to be built, to be maintained, and was that done? And who is responsible? So that we can be able to take people to task. Even when these floods have happened, people have been drowned, and the municipality only came after 6 hours, whereas there was weather warnings to say people, even municipalities communicating with the communities, prepared in their heavy rains, but the municipality was caught like unprepared.
Still in the Eastern Cape, all roads have been reopened. This includes the Barclay Pass on the R58 between Barclay East and Elliot, which was closed due to snowfall. The Provincial Transport Department says the N10, which was closed due to a crash involving a truck last night, has also been reopened and the scene cleared. There's a standoff between residents of Meadowlands in Soweto and taxi associations over the blockading of roads in the area. This as residents resume their protest. They are using burning tires and rocks to barricade roads. The protest is related to the poor delivery of basic service, particularly continuing power outages. Eskom spokesperson Amanda Ngiti explains the cause of the power disruptions.
We have an outage that is